What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I dropped 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal.
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights. We're up to day 23 with your boy EJ, doing 2 live streams per day. Apologies for getting out a little late. Had a little technical issues I had to figure out, but we fixed that and we're all good to go. This is going to be a good show. I'm really excited about this one. Coming up, 9:15, the good brother Keith McPherson joins the show to talk Yankee baseball. And big shout out, of course, to Keith McPherson. Really excited about that. Of course, we had a pretty big guest yesterday morning where we had Andrew Perloff, who was here from Nagy and Perloff show. We talked plenty of football. I'm sure we'll get into some football. I know Keith is a beloved Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm not sure how much you want to talk about them, considering, we know the Cowboys and we know their situation. We know sometimes they could be a little bit of an embarrassing situation. But he's all about pitchers and catchers. He's all about Yankee baseball. The Yankees start pitchers and catchers today. A lot of the Major League Baseball teams start pitchers and catchers today. The Mets are also reporting as well. So it would be great to have Keith McPherson here at 9:15. He'll be joining me live to talk about the return of baseball and the beginning of a new year and a year for the Yankees that I think is, and we'll get to some of my thoughts on the Yankees as well. It's kind of a weird year. It's a weird year because this is a team that, typically after, the offseason kind of, or rather postseason kind of failures, I guess. I mean, it's fair to say they failed last year. Usually they make some kind of move to shake up the roster or shake things up a little bit. That's not what they did this year. You're pretty much looking at what we've called the run it back Yankees, where a lot of it was more about retention than it was about necessarily going out and getting a big piece. Was that the right move? Time will obviously tell. I think there is some value to when you lose in a postseason. And it's not like they didn't get rid of some people. They let Devin Williams walk. They let Luke Weaver walk. But I think there is some value to when you lose in the postseason, sometimes shaking up the roster. Even if it's something small, but at least one move that's kind of a big deal that kind of changes the core of the team. Especially when you have a team that's failed in the playoffs as often as Yankees have over the last few years. I think that there's value in that. So a little surprising that they decided not to try to make some kind of big move. I also think that the Yankees realize that they are one of the top teams in the Major League Baseball, and they have arguably the most talented roster in the American League. The American League that I think is a JV league compared to the National League. So I think they look at this and say, we could upset the apple cart and make something drastic happen, but the team we have should be capable of getting to a World Series. So why do that when we can make, these kind of ancillary moves, bring back the big piece we needed, which was Cody Bellinger. I think that was a great move that they did. I said he should have been their number one target to return, and he was. I mean, they look into this upcoming season, they feel good about where they are, even though they didn't make a lot of big moves. So I'm excited to have Keith McPherson here, man. That's going to be a lot of fun because Keith is obviously, hosting on WFAN. He was for a while he was the nighttime host, and he did a phenomenal job in that stretch. He did working full time at the Fan. He's taking a step back. He's now working part-time, but he's still active. He's still here out there on the weekends doing his show and doing a phenomenal job doing his show. So it's going to be good to have Keith McPherson. He's going to join me at 9:15. We also will talk about the latest in the Kawhi Leonard, Pablo Torre, I guess you can call scandal at this point. I don't know how else I would describe it. And I'll be honest, I'm not a player hater. And I've actually been someone who, in many ways, has supported Pablo Torre and supported his reporting on a lot of things beyond just even this. Leave the Knicks alone. That's the only thing I tell Pablo. Leave the Knicks alone, as Eric keeps telling him. But besides that, I think that a lot of what he's been doing has been great. I feel like this last drop, I'll be honest, I'll be real, I kind of was like, okay, where are we going with this? Like, what's the point of this? I feel like Pablo has done his job. Like, he has buried the Clippers as far as he can bury them. And it seems very clear to me that there obviously is some kind of circumventing of the cap that is happening where they're funneling money to Uncle Dennis and Kawhi Leonard through various different means. We now learned there were even more bizarre means in terms of how money was getting funded to Kawhi Leonard that was weird and interesting. And we'll play that sound a little bit later. But considering all the other stuff we heard, I think we've kind of jumped the shark on this a little bit. So we'll break that down as well. And I want to get to, coming up in a couple minutes, the Seahawks are Super Bowl champs, which means that, we've seen them celebrate. They hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. We saw Sam Darnold and Kenneth Walker. They go to Disneyland because they won the Super Bowl. I feel like that's a little bit of a jip, by the way. Just because the Super Bowl is in California, you don't get to go to Disney World. You got to go to Disneyland. Well, Disneyland's great. I love Disneyland. I went to Disneyland with my fiance. It was 2020. It was right before the pandemic. So that's 6 years ago. Now, almost literally around this time, 6 years ago. And it was one of my favorite trips I've taken. It was a trip to LA, just a trip to Southern California in general. But, I mean, Disney World is bigger and has more stuff. It's the whole thing. I'm going to Disney World after you win a Super Bowl, right? I guess it's different if you go to California. So I saw the commercial being like, I'm going to Disneyland. And they were there. And they were having a good old time. But now we turn the page. Because now we're in a situation where it's all about next season. This is where we start thinking about this sport being a 365-day sport. And I'm going to give you my 5 teams that I think are the biggest threats to the Seattle Seahawks when it comes to winning a championship. 5 teams. I'm excited to do that. I think that's going to be a fun segment because I think that people look at Seattle, and I think that we all agree that they're a strong team and a team that's not going anywhere in terms of they'll be in the mix in the playoffs, probably deep runs for the foreseeable future because they have a good quarterback in his prime. They have a bunch of other players that are in their prime or entering their prime. They have a young defense, and they have a really good coaching staff. We'll see what they do with OC. That's going to be a big deal, right? You go through this entire coaching cycle where all those OCs are getting hired, and you're in the Super Bowl knowing that your OC is about to leave. So it's one of those things where you kind of hope that you have a guy there in-house who you can promote that you feel confident in because it's no question that Clint Kubiak had a big impact on the team. But nonetheless, you expect the Seahawks to be good. But they're not this dynastic team where you're like, okay, there's no one that can touch them and we're entering the era of the Seahawks. At least we don't think that. Maybe we are, and we'll find that out. But that's not what we think at this moment in time. So I want to identify the 5 teams that I think if you're looking at next year, who are the teams that the Seahawks should be worried about in terms of knocking them off from winning a Super Bowl for a second year in a row. So this is going to be a lot of fun, man. 40 days, 40 nights. I also got to get to the big night in the Stewart household. Well, I would say eventually I could call it the Stewart household because we'll be married in a couple months. But right now it's the Stewart Lynch household. Though that goes into a whole different thing because Andrea, I don't know if this is spoilers for like my family or people who don't know. She's planning to keep the Lynch name. That's her last name. So right now, it's still the Stewart Lynch household. I guess in theory, it will remain the Stewart Lynch household. But as a married couple, I guess eventually will become the Stewart household, even if she does keep her name as Stewart, as Lynch. But what's funny about this is it's a big deal in the Lynch household and Stewart household because Love is Blind is back. That's right. Let's get a round of applause for that. I told you guys, man, reality TV is a part of this conversation, is a part of what we do here on 40 Days and 40 Nights. And I'm really excited about the fact that Netflix's Love is Blind is indeed back for a brand new season where you'll have now us going to Ohio, of all places. Interesting choice of place, but I am someone who is obsessed with this show. I know my fiance, Andre, is obsessed with this show. So we've been waiting on this for a long time. And in waiting about this, it was an interesting little detail I learned about our future reality TV watching that I may need your help with because Andrea relates to me some information. It's not about Love is Blind, but it's about a whole different franchise. She related to me some information that's going to have to make me make a difficult decision of what I do moving forward. And I'm going to need your help on it, so I want to hear from you guys. So this is DJ Stewart. This is 40 Days, 40 Nights. We're streaming live multiple places, including streaming live on YouTube. New Generation Media is where you'll find us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you give us a comment. Make sure you do all the things you can to support us. We greatly appreciate that. We're now streaming live on Instagram because I finally hit the button. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram, where we're streaming live on IG Live. We are also now streaming live on X, EJ_Stewart. I gotta be honest, I gotta figure out what's going on because usually X, when I go live, it just posts that I'm live, but it's not posting that I'm live. I am live. I see myself on live, but it's not posting anywhere, so I'm not getting any views from X. So I'm just posting real quick. Day 23 begins now. Away. This is the nature of doing a live show where you got to do this kind of stuff. You can't really hide it. You don't have anyone else to talk for you. Let's say Keith McPherson. I don't know why it's acting weird. There we go. Keith McPherson joins the show at 9:15. All right, yeah. So anyway, so we're streaming live on X. People will see it eventually. Now that I've actually posted that we're live, I don't know. I gotta figure out what's going on. I've had a couple issues with Ecamm this week. A little annoying. It's kind of led to a little bit of a slow start. John Lee in the chat said, "Yo, what's up, John Lee? Good to see you as always. Again, sorry for being a little late today. Again, had to overcome a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're all good. We're all rocking, and we're here to have a lot of fun because this is going to be a fun show. Again, Keith McPherson joins me live at 9:15 to talk Yankees. That is going to be a conversation you do not want to miss at all. So again, thank you guys for checking us out. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please give us a like in the video. That greatly helps us. Of course, if you're watching the IG Live, make sure you follow me, Action EJ. And of course, on X, follow me, EJ_Stewart. Let's begin with this conversation about the Seahawks that I kind of teased here. And Seattle's a really good team. I feel like I said just a couple minutes ago, I don't expect this to be a team that simply goes away once they, win this championship. And then, I know they got, Kenneth Walker, they got to figure out, they're going to resign him. There's not going to be any issue keeping him long term. Whether they franchise tag him and there's an issue, whatever. But I don't expect that to be a issue for them moving forward. They're a pretty young team. I think their cap sheet is pretty okay. So I don't think that this is a squad that you have to worry about in terms of can they keep this team together. They are going to be fine in that regard. So they're going to come into next year as one of the favorites. Right now, I saw some odds today. I was just looking again as they keep updating. Seahawks, I think, now have actually become now not just co-favorites, but now the favorites. At least that's what I saw on FanDuel. That they're now the favorites to come out of the NFL as the Super Bowl champs for next year, which is par for the course. That's simply what happens when you win the championship. They put you in there automatically as a team that is the favorite right now. Actually, I can probably share my screen with you so you can see this for yourself. But these are the betting odds currently that are up there on FanDuel. As I share my screen here for a second. So there you go. You can see right here. So you got Seahawks right now at plus 750. Then you got the Rams slightly behind them at plus 800. And then you got kind of a canyon where you got Ravens at plus 1,200, Bills plus 100, Packers plus 1,300, Chargers plus 1,500. I kind of did some digging as I was getting ready for the segment, and I think I kind of know why the Chargers are that high now. Because I remember I said it yesterday when I was talking to Pearl, and I said it earlier in the week. I didn't quite understand why the Chargers were so high, but they have apparently like $80 million in cap space this year. So for a team that's already pretty good, but like definitely needs to up its support for Justin Herbert, they're going to have the means to do that in a major way this offseason. So whether it's signings, whether it's trades, I expect the Chargers to be a major difference maker this offseason. So I think that's why you see the Chargers there as the third best team in the AFC in terms of odds to win a Super Bowl. I think that's going to be an important thing to follow. So you got all the teams down here. But throw that out. Forget about what you see there from FanDuel. I want to give you guys my thoughts because I'm not Vegas. I don't have all their metrics. I don't have all their math. I don't have their skill. But damn it, that doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. It doesn't mean I'm not going to give you my thoughts, who I think are the biggest threats to a Seahawk repeat. So I want to give you guys my threats, my biggest threats to the Seahawks. And I want to get some music in here because, I think I've done these kind of segments before. And I'm like, it kind of feels a little naked doing it without music. So I was like, I think we should probably get some music in here. And it'll be music I think that if you listen to Maggie and Perloff show, you actually may be a little familiar with. Because, of course, since I was the executive producer, I have access to all the music. I have access to all the music. So that makes my job easier when it comes to this. So I'm loading this up in a second. But who do you think I want to put it into the chat, give you guys a question as this music loads up. Who do you guys think are the biggest threats to the Seahawks this year? And do you think the Seahawks are a real threat to repeat? I think that they are. I think to say that a repeat is not in the cards at all would be silly. I think that they've shown clearly that they are a team that to be reckoned with. So I definitely think that they have a shot. Do I think that it's likely they repeat? It's very tough to do. We've only seen the Chiefs do it in recent memory, and that was not an easy road they went through to get there. So let's get it going, man. I want to do this. 3, 2, 1. You remember that music. I'll lower a little bit. But you remember that music. It used to be out NFL and 16 music. I'm going to give you my 5 teams for who I think are the biggest threats to the Seahawks. Let's go with number 1. I'm starting with the Chicago Bears, who, once again, are kind of nowhere to be found when it comes to Super Bowl odds. I don't know why Vegas hates the Chicago Bears as much as it seems like they do, but I think the Bears are for real. I think that they definitely picked up something when it came to Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. I'm a believer in Caleb Magic, and I'm someone who thought Caleb was going to be a star in the NFL. I'll be honest, that first year scared me a little bit, and even earlier in the season, Caleb's inaccuracies scared me a little bit. But he has all the physical tools, and it seemed like as the year went on, he started to click a little bit more in that Ben Johnson offense. The one thing they're missing in that offense is, I think, precision, and I think that will improve as long as Caleb continues to get more comfortable with the offense and he continues to improve his accuracy, which I don't think is going to be a major problem. We saw him playing in cold weather games in December and January, that he is a weapon. It's not going to be a detriment to him. I know he played at USC, but he's from DC. His arm strength, totally good in that Chicago win. Again, remember that Hail Mary kind of throw he had on that touchdown that sent the game into overtime, that 2-point conversion sent the game into overtime. Incredible play. Caleb's a real deal. I think the Bears, they figured out the offensive line finally. Well, first of all, they're monsters in terms of the run game. They really found something in the running game. But they also have found a way to protect Caleb. The cap situation is not the greatest, but I do feel like if they can find a way to simply get themselves one edge rusher, because that's the biggest thing, is that they couldn't get a pass rush. If they could get someone like Trey Hendrickson, clear up some money, something like that. I know it's a lot of money you got to clear up, but I think that he would be kind of the perfect fit for them. If it's not obviously signing of Trey Hendrickson, maybe it's a trade for an edge rusher, but I think they get an edge rusher. I think Chicago becomes very dangerous moving forward. So I got the Bears as my number 5 team as a big threat to the Seahawks repeating. My number 4 team. Should I spoil it? I'm not going to spoil it. But I'll tell you who it is. Buffalo Bills. I believe the Bills are the best team heading into the AFC for next season. Their general manager might be a bozo. Their owner might be a bozo. We don't really know what their head coach is yet. And I actually really was impressed with Joe Brady and how he kind of approached the beginning of his run as Bills head coach, with him basically putting out all the fires that his GM and owner set ablaze a week prior. So I actually feel pretty good about Brady at this point in time. The Bills, I expect to aggressively address receiver. I mean, it has become now not just whisperers around the city. It is now blaring alarms, being like, you better find Josh Allen a real number 1 wide receiver. So I would expect them to be fully in the mix. I saw, Pearl yesterday was saying maybe the Patriots are in the mix for A.J. Brown. I would expect the Bills to be in the mix for A.J. Brown as well. I think that a lot of these AF teams are going to be, I think the Chargers, like I mentioned them, with a lot of cap space. I think a lot of these teams are going to be in the mix for A.J. Brown because they're going to need a number 1 receiver. So I expect the Bills to be one of those teams. I think they're going to be aggressive to figure out the wide receiver situation. And they're shaking up the defense, honestly. Like, you got Jim Leonard coming in. He's a 3-4 defensive coordinator. They've played 4-3 this entire time under Sean McDermott. That could also mean major shakeups to the defense, and shakeups might not be that bad. The Bills have been a good defense. They have not been elite. They have not been able to catch that next level of being a dominant defense, which is not that it's something you need per se for Josh Allen, but it wouldn't hurt to have a dominant defense, not to rely on him to be Superman all the time. So I think the Bills come in. I know that they had their typical peaks and valleys in the regular season. They had their typical postseason disappointment. But the core of the team, I think, will still be there. Josh Allen will still be there. He's not coming off a torn ACL like Patrick Mahomes is. So I think you do got to take the Bills as a threat to maybe in a Super Bowl matchup beat a team that can beat the Seahawks. I think if you're looking at teams in the AFC this year, of all the teams that were in the mix who could have maybe went to the Super Bowl, this was probably the team in the AFC that would have given the Seahawks the most trouble, because Josh Allen probably would have been able to step up more. First of all, I think he wouldn't have been as flustered by that pressure. And I think he would have been probably more equipped to avoid the pressure. And the Bills also would have been blocked better. Also, they have a much better offensive line than the Patriots. So that just would have been a much better matchup. I don't know if the Bills' defense would have been as much of a problem for Sam Darnold as the Patriots' defense was, because their corners are way better. That's another problem for the Bills. They definitely got to fix their quarterback room. But I think that the Bills still, I look at them as potentially the best team in the AFC next year. So they'll be my number 14. Let's go to number 3. Philadelphia Eagles. This is a tough call for me. the Eagles, I think, can go one of two ways. I think that you either see them do what they did a couple of years ago, or last year, I guess, technically, where come off a down year and you go back and you fix everything and you get to another Super Bowl run, or they really go into the crapper. But it does feel like this is a last hurrah push for this group. And I actually really appreciated Andrew Perloff's approach and kind of his sensibilities to the situation. I think even I didn't realize how desperate it is for Jalen Hurts, for Nick Sirianni. And it kind of makes sense, right? This is a team that is now a Super Bowl bust team every year. So if you don't make it and you lose in the first round, you don't even win a game in the playoffs. Yeah, I think that you start to ask real questions about where this team is going, particularly because it's older. We know Lane Johnson's older. We know Saquon Barkley's older. Now we know A.J. Brown's older if he's still on the team. Like, this is not a young group anymore. It's young in spots on defense. Its defense is pretty young. But otherwise, it's a pretty old group. So they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with the rest of this group and how they're going to figure out kind of if this is kind of a team that is sustainable beyond this year. So a lot of guys, I think, are looking to say, hey, this is like maybe our last dance. Nick Sirianni keeping his job. Jalen Hurts wanting to remain the franchise quarterback. Saquon Barkley, I think it's probably, you would think, his last real productive season that he probably has left, right? He's entering, age 31, I believe, at this point in time. We saw some slippage this year. I thought he played better as the year went on, so that maybe gives you the hope he's not completely cooked. But this was not Saquon Barkley 2 years ago that arguably could have been the MVP of the league, where he was running for almost 2,000 yards, and he could have broke the record. I think he actually did run 2,000 yards, and he could have broke the record for rushing yards that season. This past season, Saquon Barkley, good numbers. Runs for 1,100 yards or 4.1 yards per carry. Nothing like the year prior. He literally, his production was cut in half. He ran for 2,000 yards a year prior on 5.8 yards per carry and 13 touchdowns. So that's a big decline. I think Saquon could probably be something like he was this year, maybe a little bit better. Let's say like some of the injuries the Eagles have in the offensive line don't hurt them quite as much. So the Eagles, I think, are a real threat. I think they still have a hellacious defense. Jalen Carter is still a monster. They still have Coop. They still have Zach Ballin. I mean, they're awesome. They're awesome everywhere. Mitchell is a absolute superstar corner. They gotta figure out the quarterback 2 spot. They're gonna have some money to play with because somehow Howie Roseman is a wizard. And I looked at the cap sheet. They have like $28 million in cap room. I'm like, oh, I thought you think an Eagles team that has paying all these guys that they have no money. Turns out they got money to spend. So that's plenty of money, I think, to find a competent second cornerback because you're going to keep Cooper DeJean and nickel. So they get the second quarterback thing straightened out. I think in a new offense with Sean Mannion, he's a huge question mark. No idea if that's going to work out. There are a lot of people who seem to be more optimistic than I am that this is going to be totally fine, that this guy who's never called plays before is going to be awesome. But a lot of people around the league think that he is a really smart guy and that he is one of the next ones when it comes to top play calls. And he's got a lot of weapons to play with. He's not like he's going to a team that has a cover that's bare. So I think the Eagles, to me, still a big threat to the Seahawks here. Still a threat in the NFC. They are going to be my number 3 team when it comes to the threats to beat the Seahawks in the playoffs next year. Number 2. I know they missed the playoffs. I think it's the only team in this list that didn't make the playoffs. And you may roll your eyes at me saying them, and I'm not saying the Chiefs, so relax. I'm still high on the Detroit Lions. They're my number 2 team. I think there was going to be slippage when you lose Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I think both of them were losses for them. It didn't seem like John Morton was a competent replacement for Ben Johnson. I know John Morton had been around the league for a while, but we know Ben Johnson is a super creative guy and one of the best play callers in the NFL right now, obviously, but probably one of the best of the last 10 years. So there was going to be major slippage offensively. I think you saw that where the Lions offense just couldn't kick it in gear as, they just had, it just wasn't the same. I just thought Dan Campbell made a mistake taking over play calling. I know Morton wasn't the greatest, but I thought the offense didn't get much better with Dan Campbell taking over plays. And I don't think that's something that is his jam. I don't think that's what he's about. I think it took away a lot of what makes, Dan Campbell, having tried him to become, the mad scientist drawing up schemes. I didn't think that was a good idea. So they bring in Drew Petzing, who, to be honest, is kind of a surprise hire. He was part of an Arizona Cardinals staff that just got fired. But you got to look the forest through the trees beyond just what happened with the Cardinals this year. They didn't have James Conner. Kyler Murray got hurt, quote unquote, and then got benched. So throw out the offensive stats from this year. The 2 years prior, the Cardinals were 4th in rushing and 7th in rushing. The Cardinals had an identity of being able to run the ball on anybody with this guy calling plays. And it was his first time being an offensive play caller. He's only 38 years old. I think the Lions know that they want to have an identity of being able to run the football. And they seem to lose a lot of that identity this year, where there were times where you saw Knuckles and Sonic and Knuckles doing their thing, but then there were other times where it seemed like teams were able to kind of figure out the Lions running game, which was stunning because it seemed like they were like unstoppable on the ground with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Montgomery's going to be potentially off this team this year. I know the players want him back, but at this point in his career, is that a guy you trade and you just go all in on Jahmyr Gibbs? Could be an interesting thing to see here, but I just still think that when I look at a talent perspective, offensively, they're the team that I think would give the Seahawks the most problems of all the teams in the NFC, and really the rest of the teams in the NFL. They have so many weapons, they're so balanced, and I think the injury luck that they had, or lack thereof, just has to turn at some point. I don't know if there's like an electrical field near Ford Field or wherever the Lions practice that's making all you guys get hurt. I cannot explain why they keep getting hurt, but obviously it's become a major problem for Detroit. I just think that that's got to flip over at some point. At some point, these guys that keep getting hurt, stay healthy for one season, or at least most of them. They got decimated with injuries this year. They obviously were decimated with injuries the year prior, even though they were still the number 1 seed and still, of course, had home field advantage in the playoffs. I think the injury luck flips. I think a slightly easier schedule now that they don't get to have the first place schedule will help them. The Lions, I think, have a major bounce back year next year. And they're a team that will be maybe the number 1 threat in the NFC, potentially, for the Seattle Seahawks. Let's go to one more team here. We got to go to number 1. Lions were close, but I didn't make them number 1 because there's one team that I think you have to consider as the number 1 threat to the Seattle Seahawks repeating as Super Bowl champs next year. And it's the LA Rams. And it may be simple, it may be cliche, but I just think it's real. These are two teams that play razor close games. It felt like as the Seahawks played them more, they got more comfortable with the Rams. And I know Pearl said that he felt yesterday that that game could have went either way a couple of weeks ago. I think the Seahawks kind of dominated his hearts, but I thought they outplayed them. I thought that the Seahawks were never uncomfortable. It was a close game. Like, they couldn't screw it up. Sam Darnold couldn't throw a game-changing interception at any point. But to be honest, with that secondary that the Rams putting out there, I don't think it was a threat to throw a pick against that team. And it's odd because it's a team that picked them up 4 times this year. But to be honest, the Rams have a big issue at cornerback. That is their weakest spot. I expect them to be able to address that. They're also a team that has a ton of cap space. So Rams are going to have money to spend. They're going to be able to find a way. Now, they got to pay some of their own guys. They got to pay Byron Young. They got to pay Puka Nacua. So they're going to have to use a lot of that cap space to pay their own. They got very fortunate where they were a team that, because they had a lot of guys who were 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks, 5th round picks, Puka Nacua, who were able to have big impacts, that they didn't have necessarily all of these massive contracts that are bogging down their salary cap. So they have $48 million in cap space. They're going to have plenty of money to, I think, spend on some of those guys. And then they'll be able to sign X amount of free agents they need to fill out. Maybe, I think to me, the biggest spot is corner for them. Other thing about the Rams I think is going to be important as well as we look at their outlook. Remember, 2 first-round picks this year. They got their own, and they got the Falcons pick from last year because of James Pierce trade. I would anticipate that this will be a team that, because it's Les Snead, and we know his adage of F them picks, him having additional draft capital, watch out for them making a huge splash somewhere. What that is, I could not tell you, but I think this is a team you're saying, hey, who could make the biggest splash this offseason that really changes the dynamic of the Super Bowl picture? I think the team is probably the Rams. They have a lot of cap space. They have 2 first-round picks this year, and they have a general manager who is known to be extremely aggressive in these spots. I think they were kind of pseudo hoping they could get their quarterback of the future with this, which is why they wanted that extra second first round pick. But this year, I don't think that guy exists. Maybe they like Ty Simpson that much, but considering they were so close to getting back to the Super Bowl, do I expect Les Snead to say I'm gonna use this other first round pick on Ty Simpson in hopes that we can get him to be the guy that becomes the airpan Matt Stafford after this whole Super Bowl run is over and the window is over? I don't see that. I think that they're going to be aggressive to try to help the team this year and help the team get and compete with the Seahawks this year. So if you're Seattle, you beat them this year. They were 3 classic games, awesome games. They're not going anywhere. They're right in your division. They're right in your backyard. So I don't expect this to be a one-off where you say, oh, we're done with the Rams, we move on. Matthew Stafford was the MVP this year. I'm saying 10 toes down. We need to keep talking about it. He's the best quarterback in the NFL. Do not give me Mahomes. Do not give me Josh Allen. Do not give me Lamar Jackson. If you watch every Sunday this past season, and you watch the NFL, you watched around the league, whether you're watching on NFL Sunday Ticket or you're watching on Red Zone, you cannot find me a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford this season. Not even close. Maybe you'll find a guy who runs better. Maybe you'll find a guy who has more endorsements. Maybe you'll find a guy who's younger. You will not find me a guy who is playing quarterback at the level of Matthew Stafford. In fact, it brings me to a story real quick. You know, I guess all the NFL mic'd up stuff from Super Bowls coming out because, you know, obviously Super Bowl ended. And they had Julian Love mic'd up, safety for the Seahawks. And he was talking about how he knew a pick was coming for Drake May. He had almost caught one earlier in the game. He got annoyed. He was like, it's coming. Don't worry. He's a young guy. It's coming. And he eventually makes the pick. But right before the play, he's talking on the sidelines. He's like, this guy, Drake, he's dropping back, and he's hitting that back foot. And when he's hitting that back foot, he's like hesitating to make sure the guy's open, and then he's throwing. So it's going to make it easy for us to start dropping these passes. He said, and I quote, he's not like Stafford, who's hitting that back foot and no-looking things everywhere. Like the fact that even we're 2 weeks removed, and he's still thinking about the threat that Matthew Stafford is as a quarterback. Mind you, he's playing against what that, in theory, is another MVP caliber quarterback. And he said, this guy ain't no Matthew Stafford. He's nothing like what we dealt with. Well, this guy was just dropping back and just no looking at guys. Just hitting the back foot and not even looking to see if the guy's open and just flinging it. Like, again, I've said a bunch. I don't think there's ever been an athlete who has impressed me more, who changed my perspective on their career more than Matthew Stafford has. He's also gotten better, so that helps him. But make no mistake about it, he's a bad man. And I don't think that he's going to fall off a cliff despite his old age. So I'm giving the Rams, with him coming back, plenty of money to spend, and 2 first-round picks. I believe they are the number 1 threat to the Seattle Seahawks repeating. So that's my top 5 teams. I want to know who you think are the 5 teams. Who are the teams that we got to look at when it comes to threats to potentially beat the Seahawks next year? Get in the chat. Let me know what you think. I feel really good about the Seahawks in terms of, again, I think that they're going to be a team that's going to be here for a while. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think that this is I saw some people saying that, is Sam Darnold the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl? That sounds insane to me. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold, obviously from a career standpoint, a lot of his career has been a mess. It's really been 2 years of production. But those 2 years, last year and this year have been really good. I don't know. I feel like Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Who are some of the guys I've seen win Super Bowls? I just feel like there are a lot of guys. I don't think he's the worst quarterback in the Super Bowl. I don't think he's close. That to me seems. I mean, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl as a backup quarterback. Jeff Hostetler won a Super Bowl as a backup quarterback. He's not the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl. That's utterly ridiculous. The question has become, is he a top 10 quarterback? It's funny. Shout out to my guy Rob DeRay. He's not in the chat today. He may be there, but he hasn't said anything. But surprised he didn't complain about me being late today. He typically will complain about me being late. But he thought I was actually jumping out the window by saying that Darnold was definitely a top 10 quarterback. I don't know. I don't think that that's crazy at all. Again, we want to list them off. My number 1, who should be everybody's number 1, Matthew Stafford. Stafford, Allen. I'm not going to order after Stafford. I'm not doing that. But just guys, I'm going Stafford, Allen, Mahomes, Jackson, Burrow. I really feel like there's an obvious top 5, and then whoever you want to say after that, I think is pretty much debatable, and I will talk about it and I have no problem with. I think Jared Goff, I will put ahead of him. I will put Jordan Love ahead of him. So that gets me to 7. And now I think he gets now you're saying, okay, if you're going to give me a quarterback that's going to, you take over a guy who just won a Super Bowl, I think it's hard for me to say, right? If Jalen Hurts is 8, you want to say another guy won a Super Bowl, okay, I can give you Jalen Hurts. So I think that's now becoming more debatable at this point. Jalen Hurts, in terms of the Eagles passing game, just not that effective. And as Perloff said yesterday, he just wasn't running the ball the way he used to. So that's skeptical. I think today, if I had to say which quarterback is better, I think I would say Sam Darnold today. But let's say I give you Hurts. That's 8. Where are we going now? Are we jumping to Caleb Williams? I like Caleb Williams. He didn't win a Super Bowl. He's awesome. He maybe has more physical traits. Are we going to Caleb Williams? Or are we going to... I'm not going to Drake May after what I saw. I'm sorry. I'm not going to Drake May. Drake May, I know he was an MVP candidate. He had a great season. He's a good quarterback. He's young. He clearly, to me, has another step of development, I think. Justin Herbert. That's what makes the quarterback conversation so interesting, because like we're naming guys who have been in this conversation and have but like they haven't won. Like, you want to give me Justin Herbert, you want to give me Dak Prescott, you want to give me some of these guys. Like, these guys haven't won anything. Like, this guy won a Super Bowl and he wasn't great in the Super Bowl game, but he was great in the lead up to the Super Bowl. And he's had 2 years of elite production. I don't know. I cannot put these other guys who have been playoff disasters like Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. I cannot put them ahead of him. I can't. It sounds crazy to me. I agree. It sounds crazy to say out loud that you got to put Sam Darnold ahead of Justin Herbert. But I am. I'm not convinced that Justin Herbert, if he's playing for the Seahawks, they win a Super Bowl. I'm absolutely not convinced of that. I've seen this guy play in the postseason. I'm not convinced. So who am I going? So if it's not going to be Herbert, again, are we putting in Dak Prescott? I mean, I like Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is in many ways underrated. Do I think he's the top 10 quarterback in the NFL? Again, it gets tough when you start comparing him to guys that have rings. I have no problem putting Sam Darnold in the top 10. Threw for 4,000 yards this year, 25 touchdowns. He threw a ton of picks. He throws picks. I just think that's going to be part of the Sam Darnold deal, is that they're going to be interception games. They're going to be games where he maybe throws 4. But I still look at 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. He had one of the most dangerous pairings when it comes to quarterback wide receiver pairings in the league with him and Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's not 2 years in a row. He had Justin Jefferson. People thought there'd be a fall off after losing Kirk Cousins. There was none. Maybe Justin Jefferson was even more dangerous in that offense with Sam Darnold. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You lose DK Metcalf. Sam Darnold comes around. You think, okay, again, step back is going to come. I don't mean James Harden. I mean step back for the offense, step back for the passing game. And Jackson Smith and Jigba leads the league in receiving yards and was on the brink of potentially breaking the record for most receiving yards ever. Quarterbacks gotta get some credit for that at some point. We can't just keep saying, "Oh, they're winning," but he's just there. I don't know. He's top 5 in passing yards this past season. I'm looking at the stats to see like what the case is to not put him here. He was top 5 in passing yards this year. Where was he in touchdowns? He was a little lower on touchdowns. He was 9 though, still within the top 10. I know where he was with picks. He was essentially dead last or first, depending on how you read that. With most picks in the NFL. QBR, which I like QBR. I think QBR is a pretty good stat. I know some people don't love QB rating. I don't like QB rating. I like QBR. QBR, he's a little lower, right? Like he was 19. Because there were games where he was kind of awful. But I think that's the Sam Darnold experience that you just got to have to live with. There are some games where he just looks terrible. He's going to throw some picks. He's kind of, for a guy who's so kind of unassuming, he's also kind of a gunslinger. So you got to have that. You have that dichotomy with him. But I look at Darnold. I think that is absolutely fair to say he's top 10. You want to throw Baker Mayfield in there, Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix. Those would be those guys you talk about. I have no problem saying Darnold's top 10 at this point in time. Maybe at some point this week I'll do a definitive top 10 quarterback list. That actually ranks all of them, not just me just saying, okay, Stafford won and then take everybody else and try to find a spot for Sam Darnold. I'm actually going to sit there and try to see, okay, let me rack this off. Where does he rank among the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Let's rank them all. I'll do that maybe at some point. Maybe I'll do it, maybe tonight might be overkill because we just talked about it a bunch today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe I'll do it on Friday. Maybe I'll Friday may be good because Kendall will be here. I can run this list past Kendall. Maybe have Kendall have his own list. And we can see how close we are when it comes to ranking the top 10 quarterbacks. It's 9:05 Eastern Time here in New York City. It's CJ Stewart streaming live on YouTube for 40 days and 40 nights. We're up to day 23. This is the MJ day or LeBron day, depending on which God you worship. And a lot of exciting, fun things coming up because we got Keith McPherson coming up in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes to Keith McPherson. He will be joining me live to talk Yankees baseball. Yankee baseball is back. Spring training is starting. You got Yankees reporting. You got Mets reporting. I might ask him a couple of Mets questions as well. I'd be like, hey, why are you always dissing my guys? No, I'm joking. But I'll probably ask him some Mets questions as well. Curious about what he thinks about. It'll be interesting to see what he thinks about Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. I'm sure he's very happy Devin Williams is gone. Devin Williams was awful for the Yankees. But it would be good to maybe kind of get a feel for what went wrong. Because I think that has been, we all know he stunk. Him stinking is not arguable. Why he stunk, I think, is still something that we're not quite sure, haven't quite figured out yet. We want to figure out what that is and why that is. So I'm excited to have Keith McPherson on because he obviously watched Devin Williams very closely last year. And he's close to the scene with everything going on with the Bronx Bombers. So he can answer some questions about that, answer some questions about Luke Weaver and whether or not, we should feel confident that what you saw in the second half in the postseason was a blip and not what we should expect from him moving forward. Important questions to ask Keith, and I'm excited to have him on. He'll be on in about 10 minutes. Talking about the Yankees real quick, before I even get my good brother Keith McPherson on here on 40 Days and 40 Nights. Again, pitchers, catchers start today. This is an interesting season, man. I'm really excited for this season. I'm excited for both New York teams. I think it's going to be a fun summer. I think it's going to be a lot. I think there'll be a lot of winning. I think these teams are both going to make the playoffs. But I just think that both teams took such opposite approaches. And there's an argument to be made that both teams made either the right or the wrong choice when they went. And I love that. I love that we're kind of going through this kind of telltale kind of like thing of how to approach an offseason where your team comes up short of expectations. Do you take option A, which is the Yankees? You run it back because you look at it and you say, hey, we still have a talented roster. We still have a team that should be one of the top teams in the American League. There's no reason why next year with Garrett Cole coming back that we shouldn't be one of the best teams in the American League and we can't make a run next year. Or you do option B, where you're the Mets, where you say, we fell short of expectations. We don't think this locker room has the winning culture environment needed to win. So we need to overhaul this entire thing, but keep just really the main two core guys, the most expensive guys, and Soto and Lindor, and kind of just change the rest of the whole lineup, essentially. It's entirely different approaches. The Yankees had more success than the Mets, so maybe they didn't have the desperation to change as much, but they still fell short of their expectations to lose in the divisional round. I know you lost to the team that went to the World Series and almost won the World Series. One bad pitch away from winning the World Series. 2 outs away from winning the World Series. But still, I think you look at it and say, really? Nothing? Ryan Weathers? That's it? In terms of major moves? But I will say this. Again, I think there is something to bringing in some guy in the locker room, one or two guys, to come in and really kind of just shake things up just a little bit, just to give a different vibe, to give a different energy here. But to be honest, I think what the Yankees are looking at, and I think it's fair to look at, is can their young guys step up? And I say young, but they're really now like in their prime or entering the prime of their careers, in terms of their prime ages. Can these guys really step up and become stars? I think this is a massive year for Austin Wells. I think that he is in many ways one of the X factors for this team because I think they want him to be the catcher for the majority of the season. I know obviously Ben Rice is going to catch as well. I want to talk about Ben Rice in a second too, but Ben Rice is going to play a lot of first base still, even with Goldschmidt coming back. Austin Wells, he has some pop, but he can go into some big slumps. Batting average is super low. I still feel like there's something there with Wells. I still feel like Wells could be a top-end catcher. If Austin Wells takes a step up that you hope he could take with this lineup still being one of the better lines of baseball. And Ben Rice shows that last year was not a fluke and that he is truly here to stay as one of the core pieces of this Yankee lineup. And he takes a step up now that he has another full year under his belt playing on the major league level. You get those guys just to take another step up. The Yankee lineup looks entirely different and more dynamic just with those guys improving. Now, of course, with baseball, this thing could go, those guys take a step back, right? That's not out of the question at all where these guys, you say, oh, well, look, so these guys just do X, Y, and Z, then they'll be great. It's like, well, yeah, they also can go the flip side, and then you turn around and, Ben Rice is a pumpkin, and Austin Wells is actually unplayable, right? But I still feel like you look at the lineup, Trent Grisham, I think he's going to be a big X factor too. Like, was what we saw from him real? I tend to think that it won't be, but to be honest, the Martian is still here. So if Trent Grisham does become a pumpkin, I think that this is also a big year for another young guy in Jason Dominguez because they haven't traded him yet. I thought they would trade him. I thought they maybe trade him to get like a big-time bullpen piece. I think that's something that they probably screwed up, to be honest. If you ask me, I think that that's the one thing that worries me about this team is the bullpen. You lose two guys. Okay, I get you didn't love Weaver, you didn't love Devin Williams. You replaced them with nobody. Bednar was pretty good for the Yankees last year, coming in and stepping up as a closer. We didn't really see much from Duvall, so it's hard to really tell. In theory, those guys should be really good. Those guys should be back-end guys. But that's a big question mark for that team. I would have liked to see them get one more piece. I loved what I saw from Fernando Cruz last year. Tim Hill should be fine. They'll have enough bodies in the bullpen, but will they have true stoppers in the bullpen outside of their closer is going to be a big question mark. But I think for the Yankees, I want to see, again, the young guys, Wells, Rice, whatever role Dominguez starts to play. If those guys take the step up you expect, then I think you look at it and say, what was the change you need to make? You need to bring back Bellinger. Obviously, Judge is going nowhere. As much as Giancarlo Stanton is a walking injury, the guy can step off the bus and pull a hamstring. You know you're still going to need him, and he's typically healthy around playoff time. He's going to miss his 80 games to 100 games, and you're going to have to work around that. You're going to have to figure out, all right, you're going to have another person DHing for those games to figure out how to overcome the eventual, hey, Giancarlo Stanton's elbow's screwed up or his knee is bulky, and he needs to go down and get treatment, and he's going to be gone for 3 months. It's going to happen. But the Yankees have overcome that. I don't think that that's something really to worry about at this point. So, where are the changes? Jazz Chisholm is still one of the best second basemen. Shortstop, I think, is probably the one we say, okay, what do we think about Anthony Volpe? And Volpe is a guy I also would have maybe considered trading just to see if I could just change his dynamic and change his thing. Because I talk about, to me, I'm looking more at Wells and more at Rice. I kind of given up on Volpe in terms of what he is as a player. But I think for Yankee fans, because of what he represents as kind of the heir apparent to Derek Jeter and how disappointed he's been, they're not giving up on being disappointed in him. Like, whatever disappointment I would have had for him is gone. Now, all right, he is what he is as a player. He played injured last year. I think that certainly had to affect definitely his defense where he could not throw the ball to first base. Now we know he's dealing with shoulder injury. That makes a lot of sense. But the bat, whether he's been healthy or hurt, it's kind of been the same. So I don't know if the bat is really improving that much. So for me, I kind of look at him as he is what he is. But he better get off to a good start. Kind of like what I mentioned with Lindor yesterday. Ironically, 2 shortstops in New York. He gets off to a slow start. And you start to hear those whispers and people start chirping like, hey, what's going on? Here we go. Like, the rumbling and the boos and the jeers at Yankee Stadium. That's going to happen. That's going to be real. So for Volpe's sake, I hope he gets off to a good start. And then in third base, you got Ryan McMahon. That's the guy they brought in last year. That's why, again, for the Yankees to make drastic moves, they kind of made their off-season moves like last year in a weird way. Like the overhaul of the bullpen, bringing in Ryan McMahon and then bringing in Ahmed Rosario, who they re-signed to kind of be like a pseudo-platoon situation. They kind of made the moves for the offseason to be a different team during the regular season last year. And then they had some of the guys that were still there, and now some of the guys are gone. And they say, all right, well, we like the team that they have now. So it is different. It's not like this is the team that they started with in spring training last year at all. It's not even close. So I'm interested in that. Big question, of course, would be what's going to happen with Garrett Cole as he comes back from his Tommy John surgery. The Yankee rotation is the one thing I am not at all concerned about. Keith McPherson is about to join us in a second here. Yankee rotation is the one thing I'm not concerned about. I told you guys I'm a big fan of Max Fried. The Atlanta stuff about watch for second half and playoff Fried to show up in a negative way kind of showed up a little bit. But I think he at times righted the ship and he put together fine starts for the Yankees during the playoffs as well. Looks like Keith McPherson might have dropped out. Let me close some stuff so I can make sure I get him on here. But no, I think that I think at the end of the day that'll end up being a fine situation. I don't think that we're gonna have issues with their rotation. Question is, will you get enough from the likes of the rest of the staff? And let's get my brother up here. My guy Keith McPherson. I see you. I hear you. Do you see
I'm
me?
here, but some tech difficulties. I'm trying to make sure I can hear you and you can hear me through my XLR connection, not my MacBook.
Oh, okay. I thought I was hearing you. It sounds pretty good, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I wouldn't.
It sounds good, but I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you through my MacBook. So give me a second here.
Yeah, no worries.
My settings.
Yeah, no worries. Keep McPherson. I'll drop him for a second. He's right here with us though. He'll be joining us soon. Yeah, 2 seconds. Oh yeah, I just dropped you down. Dropped you down below.
I'm here. I don't know if they can see me or not, but I'm just like trying to get my my audio correct.
No, it's all good. I'm gonna put you in the green room real quick, and then just give me a thumbs up when you're there. I can see you at the corner of my eye. But no, Keith McPherson is gonna join us in a second. Obviously, you know he's gonna want to talk Yankees. That's why a lot of you are here. Shout out to people in the chat. Already talking Yankee baseball, so that's gonna be a lot of fun here. Already got Ariel, Marquito, excited about Ben Rice. He's going to be awesome. I agree. I think Ben Rice is the real deal. I think that the Yankees really lucked out in him becoming the kind of player that he is. Question is he the catcher of the future or is he the first baseman of the future? I think a lot of that depends on Austin Wells. Another player that's going to be important to look at, too, is what's going to happen with someone like Spencer Jones, who I said they should have traded. I thought that they should have used him or Dominguez to use one of those guys to get a bullpen on. Because I don't know what they're doing with the outfield as long as Grisham is there. So 2 of those guys definitely ain't playing. One of those guys are fighting for their life to get playing time. Unless Grisham takes a major step back, that's not really going to be a situation that's going to be viable for them. So I look at that and I'm wondering, Spencer Jones, he's going to come up. He's going to get his opportunities. There's going to be injuries. And Keith, you give me a thumbs up whenever you're ready. I'll be able to put you up. Okay, he's good. So let me put up Keith right now. But Spencer Jones is definitely going to be a factor to look at as well. We'll get more comments. Get in the comment section, man. You want to talk to me? You want to talk to Keith? You want to ask some Yankee questions? This is the time to do it. Keith McPherson joins me from WFAN. Keith, it's so good to have you, man. How you doing? Well, now you muted your mic, it seems like. You might have muted your mic on your thing. My bad. There you go. We hear you now.
Yeah, but see, like, bro, I'm not. I don't know. This Ecamm stuff is different. Like, I was just now hearing you through my headphones, and now I'm hearing you through the MacBook, and it's not using my setup. So how do I sound right now?
You sound. I think it's coming through your mic now. It sounds better than you did before.
Okay, well, I'm hearing you through my MacBook and not through my headphones. As long as there's no interference, then we're good.
Yeah, it sounds good on my end, and the chat can let me know if they hear anything. But you sound better than you did before, and I'm not hearing any feedback. So yeah, apologies for the software situation. But man, shout out to you, man. Thanks so much for joining, man. I really do appreciate this. And when I said that you were coming on, there was a lot of excitement. When I had Perloff on and Maggie on, that had the most excitement, and then you were right up there with us. People were gasped with people. Oh my God, he's coming on Talk Yankees. They were really excited, man. So I'm really excited to have you. So pitchers and catchers, they report today. If you had to say, just right off the bat, the one thing the Yankees need to have happen in order to get back to the World Series, what would it be?
They got to stay healthy. They've run it back with the same team because they feel like there's unfinished business, and the chemistry, camaraderie, cohesion of keeping that same group. I think they really leaned into that. Last year was the first postseason where Judge played out of his mind. And I think the Yankees go to sleep at night telling themselves, hey, that's baseball, Susan. The rest of the guys didn't show up. If we run it back and Judge is Judge, and a couple of these guys like Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, Cody Bellinger, Giancarlo Stanton, who didn't hit a homer in the postseason, if those guys show up, we'll be right there. They were one game away from swapping positions with the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think that's how they make themselves feel better about it. Yankee fans don't feel better about it. Yankee fans feel like they're gaslighting us. Yankee fans feel like they tell us what our eyes see is not what's actually true. We're about to find out real soon, though. Today's the first day. I'm looking forward to Boone going live at 11:30, and then I think I'm going to go live right after for some reaction. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't get the type of stuff that David Stearns had to say yesterday with the Mets.
That has become what I call the annual somebody's hurt press conference from the Mets.
Yeah.
Congrats, it's spring training. By the way, this guy, you won't see him for 2 months. That's what happens. We talked about it a bunch yesterday with Francisco and Lindor. Keith McPherson from WFAN joins me here on 40 Days and 40 Nights for day 23 to talk Yankee baseball. And Keith, one of the big topics that has been a conversation has obviously been what's going to happen with the outfield, because you have Trent Grisham that picked up his option, so he's here. And you still have Jason Dominguez, who's still on the roster. You still have all these guys in the minors, Spencer Jones, George Lombard. How does this, you think, play out over the course of the season? Do you think that there's a situation where there's a trade that happens in spring training? Is there a trade that happens at the trade deadline? Do you feel like, we know Judge and we know Bellinger are kind of locked into their spots, but what ends up happening with that third spot in the outfield? How do the Yankees play this?
I got to start off with the Martian, Jason Dominguez. I feel bad for the kid. I feel like they have fumbled his development. I feel like all of the hype around him for 6 years now, it has dissipated. It's like no one's going to care. And there's actually some people in the Yankee fan base that are like, he sucks. He's not it. He can't field. He's not. And I'm like, he's a 22-year-old kid. When he first came on the scene in 2023 in a lost season, he homered off of Justin Verlander his first at bat. He was comfortable in center field, and he got hurt, and they threw all that away. Now we're going to make you a left fielder. No, we don't have that much room for you because you know what? Trent Grisham is here. He was the throw-in in the Juan Soto trade. So I'll say this. If Trent Grisham regresses, you may have to see Jason Dominguez or Spencer Jones or something, because I don't know. The first thing of this offseason was Trent Grisham taking that qualifying offer, and Brian Cashman doubled down on it, saying it was a bargain. It was a deal. We believe in Trent. We believe that he can duplicate what he did last year. I don't. I believe it when I see it. You are what you are. Last year was a prove-it year. He proved it, but I don't think he's sneaking up on anybody. He had a hamstring injury that lingered last year. I don't know how his defense is going to be. And I feel like they can't go out there every day and say Trent Grisham is our leadoff hitter and our starting center fielder unless he's performing like he did. Belly is going to be Belly. I don't even have to tell you about Aaron Judge. They're going to probably start with Dominguez in AAA. That's the report because of the bench now. You know, the bench is going to have Paul Goldschmidt and Ahmed Rosario and Oswald Cabrera. But I feel bad for Dominguez because I think he's got speed. I think he's got plate discipline, but he needs to play every day. The same thing was said with Grisham, right? When Juan Soto was here in 2024 and Grisham would only play like once a week, he's like, it's hard to get a rhythm. It's hard to get going without having at-bats, without seeing pitches. So there's also injuries. You know, somebody could get hurt. And if somebody gets hurt, then they have to go to these young guys. But the outfield every day for the most part is Judge in right, Trent Grisham in center, Belly in left. And I don't think they believe in Spencer Jones either. So there's going to be some type of an outfield, I guess, in Scranton that has Jason Dominguez in left and Spencer Jones in center. They should dominate.
Yeah, Keith McPherson joins me here. Yeah, that's a pretty good luck to AAA pitchers having to face those guys on a regular basis because those guys may be taking a lot of time there. I'm very curious. You talked about Judge at the top, and do you feel like he's really past all the postseason bugaboos that he dealt with? He had not been, and I feel like sometimes, like, it wasn't overstated, but I feel like we kind of forgot earlier in his career he had some monster home runs for the Yankees in the postseason. In that series they had with the Astros, he didn't have the highest batting average, but he was productive, and then he went into obviously the years he had where he struggled in the postseason. Are you convinced that he's put that behind him, and now that this is going to be the Aaron Judge you're going to see, the guy you saw last year hitting that monster grand slam, being the dominant player he was? Is that who you're going to see in the postseason moving forward?
Yeah, I had a theory coming off of him dropping that pop-up in Game 5 where he homered in that game. But I had a theory that, you know, he failed at the highest level. He failed in the World Series. There's no Galaxy Series. There's no Universe Series. Like, when you embarrass yourself on stage, I think we've all had moments of on air embarrassing ourselves or doing something where we're like, damn, wish I could get that one back. After you do that, though, it's like there's no fear. There's just like nothing holding you back, nothing stopping you. You don't approach things with that same mindset. And he also had a daughter. And I'm like, my own experience having my son, it literally changes your life perspective and the weight and gravity of things. I'm like, okay, now that he's a father, he's going to have dad strength, and he's going to come home to this little girl, and she's not going to know if he went 0 for 4, if he dropped a pop-up. Like, that's going to change things for him. And then we got to the postseason, and he hit 500. He got a signature 3-run bomb off the foul pole that is forever, that, like, that game the Yankees were trailing. I was in there. I don't remember a recent memory of Yankee Stadium being more lit up than it was when Judge did that. So I think he's arrived as far as like, I've had a little bit of postseason performance, and, a little bit of moments, but like now they can't talk about him hitting 200 in the postseason. He brought that average up. They can't talk about him not being clutch, not rising to the occasion. And so that's why I feel like the Yankees, right, this is going into the 10th season. I was there in 2016 for Judge's first day in August of 2016. We're going into 10 years since he's been in pinstripes. And I feel like the Yankees look at him as the captain, the 3-time, should have been 4-time MVP. He's at the top of his game. I don't see his body breaking down. I don't see him slowing down. I see the Yankees saying, hey, let's run it back with this group who he leads, right? He stays in Tampa. And if Judge is down there in Tampa in January, February, you bet the rest of the Yankees are going to try and follow the leader. I think Judge is there as far as like he's going to be Judge when we get to October again. The moment's not going to be too heavy for him or too big for him.
You guys in the chat, man, you guys have a question for Keith McPherson. Make sure you put those questions in the chat. We'll put them up on the screen, and he can answer those questions for you guys. I have a question about the bullpen, because that's the thing when I've been doing shows on the Fan talking Yankees. That's been the one thing that I've seen you guys on that side. Keith reps the Yankees. I'm a big Mets fan, so it's been very ironic that essentially the 8th and 9th inning guys for the Yankees are now 8th and 9th inning guys for the Mets, and it seemed like Yankee fans were kind of celebrating, especially losing Devin Williams. Maybe not celebrating the idea of Weaver, but definitely Williams getting him out of here, you guys were very happy about. But my question was, okay, I know you have Bednar and Duvall because you got them in the trade deadline, but those are still bodies that you lost that doesn't seem you were replaced with. So how confident are you that this bullpen will be able to stick it together, and do you feel confident about your new 9th, 8th inning tandem with Bednar and Duvall?
I'm confident. Every year, Cashman builds a bullpen. Doesn't matter if it's Adam Ottavino and Tommy Kahnle. Doesn't matter if it's Aroldis Chapman, Dellin Betances, Andrew Miller. It doesn't matter if it's Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver. Like, they figure it out. And unfortunately, last year, I felt like they did too much, right? You had Luke Weaver as your closer going through the World Series. You trade for Devin Williams. You force it that Devin Williams is going to be your closer. He goes from small market Milwaukee to the greatest stage, and he struggled a little bit. It was a transition. Speaking of having kids, his first son was born. Life-changing. He had to step away for a little while. And when he stepped away, Luke went back in, and I felt like it was a mess. I felt like Cashman said so much that he had his eye on Devin Williams. He wanted Devin Williams for a couple years, and I felt like they should have just stuck with Luke Weaver. Ultimately, what they had to do was use Luke Weaver as the first guy out of the bullpen, which, like, I feel bad for Luke Weaver. He went from closer, setup guy to first guy out of the pen. Like, that's 3 different roles in a year to have to change your mindset for and your preparation for, and it doesn't set you up for success. Devin Williams, though, he locked in. We went from calling him low-lev Dev, right, because he sucked for a while, and then they used him in low-leverage situations. Yeah. And then he came back to high-lev Dev, where we were like, yo, he's got it. He figured it out. So with David Bednar as your bulldog closer, with Camilo Duvall potentially as your setup man who has done some closing, with Jake Bird, who we all forget about, they traded for him at the deadline last year. They had to send him down to work some things out. They're going to depend on him this year. Fernando Cruz might be that first guy out of the bullpen. And then they've added a guy, from Colorado named Angel Sevilli. And then they're always going to have other guys in the mix, like a Yeri De Los Santos. I'm sure there's some other guys that I'm forgetting, but Cashman always builds a bullpen. And the last thing I'll say, to throw it back to the Mets is good luck with that. Luke Weaver was hurt last year. I think he'll be better this year, and I think they'll find a lane for him. But Devin Williams is not Edwin Diaz. You guys are very used to bam, 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 da, 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 and Edwin Diaz can come in the 8th inning, 9th inning. Devin Williams himself said he's a 1-inning guy. And Devin Williams, if he is not like locating his fastball, they will sit on that changeup, the airbender. The airbender's not effective. Next thing you know, he's walking guys. Now you got runners on. And then when he tries to throw that fastball, somebody's hitting it out. We lived it. And that's why Yankee fans are kind of like happy about Devin Williams not being here, because he blew 10 games. And Luke Weaver probably blew 3 or 4 games. So we're looking at it as like, yo, 14 games, all we needed was one to get the tiebreaker over the Blue Jays. Like, that's where we lost the season. Good riddance. We'll figure it out this year with Bednar, Doval, Jake Bird, Cruz, and whomever else.
Yeah. Keith McPherson joining me here. We've had a couple of comments in here, and what the energy you've brought already is annoying me. I already got a Juan Soto sucks from Yankees Girl. I'm like, what? We didn't even mention Juan Soto. We mentioned him in passing. It wasn't even a Juan Soto comment.
Always mention Juan Soto. Juan Soto sucks, specifically at left field. Make sure you add that too.
My friend Ariel in the chat earlier mentioned how he's excited to see Cam Schlittler this year. Schlittler, I thought, was maybe the biggest revelation of the Yankee season last year. He seemed to come out of nowhere, and you're looking, oh my God, the Yankees may have a future ace here. Like, that's how dominant he looked at times. His stuff looked that good. The Yankee rotation, I feel like, is the best strength of this team. I think you look at Schlittler. I think you look at, I mentioned Fried, who I was I was saying by the All-Star break, I was like, he's better than Cole. And then, again, Braves fans were saying, well, look at the second half. And then, all right, maybe I jumped out the window a little bit. But Fried, certainly a true top-line guy. Where do you look at the Yankee rotation, and with Garrett Cole eventually entering in this? Do you feel like this is the best rotation in baseball?
I won't say that. I hate when they do that shit. Like, they did that when it was like Cole, Severino, Domingo Germán. They tried to do that 2 years ago, where it was Cole, it was Rodon, it was like chill, pump your brakes, Luis Gil. We don't know who the best rotation in baseball is going to be until we get through the season. But this is a strength of the team for sure. There's depth there. Will Warren, he took his lumps last year, but I expect him to be better this year. I mentioned Luis Gil. Luis Gil, he was hurt last year, but he's healthy now. He's got to get up and going. They traded for Ryan Weathers. If he's right, he can throw hard and he can be a solid piece. He might also be a bullpen piece. Max Fried, we were talking about Max Fried as a Cy Young winner. Max Fried, we were looking at, all-star. Max Fried, we were looking at as like, man, worth every penny last year. Cole coming back. He's a 2023 Cy Young winner, and I hope that he's got a new robot arm. And whenever he's ready to go, you deploy him. Cam Schlittler, Killer Cam, I mean, he started the season last year with the Somerset Patriots. He started off in Jersey as the opening day pitcher for the Patriots, and he ended up having a masterful performance against the Red Sox in the wild card. I watched that game. I was riveted. I couldn't leave. I had to get to the station. I'm like, no, we're not leaving yet. He's coming back out. And so I think it's a strength of the team. I think it's always good to have depth. I think that, when people say pitching, you can't have enough pitching. It's so true, because you think that your starting five is the guys that's going to, get you through the season. No, you need anywhere from like 8 to 10 starters in a Major League Baseball season. The Mets know that from last year. And what can happen will. Somebody might tear their Achilles, Griffin Canning. Somebody might have loose bodies in their elbow, Sean Manaea. A guy like Frankie Montas, who you're counting on, cheeks. Like, it's just like you got to have options to get through the season. And the last thing I'll say is, like, Carlos Carrasco is not going to be making starts for the Yankees. Marcus Stroman is not going to be making starts for the Yankees. Every single guy that they have lined up to make starts for the Yankees, I feel better than I did, last year watching those two pitch.
I got to ask you about Anthony Volpe, because he is set up for what is essentially him playing for his Yankee career, I think. And I think that he is setting up a year where if things go badly early, he immediately gets identified as the whipping boy. Are the Yankees fans going to are they going to give him a shot here Because, I mean, we kind of know. I think you know what he is. I've already said what I think he is. I think the offense is what he is. Can the injury, him coming back from it, will that help his defense? That's, I guess, a big question mark. But do you feel like Volpe has a future with this team beyond this season? And what is your confidence level in him coming into this year?
My confidence level is in the middle, 50-50. I don't know. I will give him some grace because in May he tore his labrum in his left shoulder. Not only did they keep him in the game that game, they kept him in the lineup for months with a bad shoulder. But then they'll tell you he was fine. He didn't look fine. He couldn't hold on to the bat. He didn't look fine. He led the American League in errors. He didn't look fine. He was striking out, and like he looked compromised. And I felt like they had a perfect reason to sit him down, put him on the IL. And they didn't do it until late in the year, which they didn't even IL him. Once they traded for Caballero, then they sat him down and shot him up, and he was better for it. The Yankees love the kid. And I've got love for the kid too, and I've said this on air. I'm friends with him. I'm friends with his dad. I'm friends with his mother. Like, I know the family. Mm-hmm. I'm a Jersey guy. And I met Michael, his father, before Anthony came up, and one of us, like, I used to pound the table at WFAN and say, one of us, like, we want to see the homegrown guy get it done, but I don't give a damn where you're from. You know what I'm saying? Judge is from Cali. Cole is from Cali. Stanton is from Cali. All the way across the country. We want to win. And it's supposed to be a meritocracy. It's supposed to be based off of talent. It's supposed to be based off of who are the best players. These are the New York Yankees. So I'm rooting for Volpe, but I haven't hitched my wagon to Volpe. I want the best man for the job to play. And what I'll say is this. I was reading this yesterday, and I'll pull this up because this is interesting, and I 100% expect the Yankees to do this, and I think that they should do this because Joel Sherman put out an article yesterday with an interesting note. Should the Yankees send Anthony Volpe down and he spends 20 days in the minors, 2 weeks or 3 weeks? I don't know how many games that'll be in the minors. That's like I don't know, 9-10 games.
Yeah. He'll
become a free agent in 2029 instead of 2028. They can manipulate his service time. But I also think that will help him because his development was affected by COVID, and his development was also affected by them going to get IKF, them deciding that he would battle IKF and Peraza in camp, not much comp. He beat them out in camp going into 2023, and they said, you're our shortstop. We're not sending you down. They didn't have that same grace for Jason Dominguez. They didn't have that same grace for, I don't know, Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar. You know what I'm saying? Guys like that. So to close the Volpe loop, don't rush him back. Please take your time. Give him his 20 days in the minors where he ought to be killing it. He needs to be destroying the pitching that he's seeing down there. He needs to be pristine in the field and then bring him back. You have Caballero. You also have Cabrera. You also have Ahmed Rosario. You have potentially 3 guys that could play shortstop to get you to June. Don't rush him back in May. If it's June, it's June. I'm rooting for Anthony Volpe, but I have no strings attached to him being the Yankees shortstop of the future. But they do. They used the first round pick on him. They drafted and developed him. They want to be right about him.
Yeah, in some ways that feels sometimes like ego getting in the way of that, where it's like if you're so worried about making sure you're right that he was the next heir apparent to Derek Jeter, you may be not seeing the forest through the trees when it comes to actually developing him the right way. Because you're right, he was thrown into the fire completely, and he's been told to sink or swim, and he's kind of been sinking. Like, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. That
and you said the key word, bro, swimming. Derek Jeter. You said the key word, Derek Jeter. They love putting that picture up of him at age 9 meeting Derek Jeter at a camp as if Jeter, like, passed him the mojo, as if Jeter passed the torch to him there. No, he was just a 9-year-old kid at a camp. Like, it does. I wish that there was less of that. Like, no one can be Jeter. No one can be Mariano. I hate that. I honestly hate when our fan base goes back to, Chapman, he's no Mariano. Clay Holmes, he's no Mariano. Devin, he's no one can be these guys.
I have a theory that if Anthony Volpe came up as a second baseman, his career would be entirely different. Like everything would be different. The way the fans treat him would be different. The development of him would be different. Like it's just the fact that he plays that position has put all of this pressure on him and changed the entire Yankee dynamic of how they actually even view him. And in terms of like,
and he grew up a diehard fan. His family, they're all diehard Yankee fans. There's pictures of him as a baby in the stadium. That's what I said. Michael and his wife were going to the games. They were working in New York and going to the games. His grandfather like taught him the stories of Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio. And it's like, man, I always say like, I can't imagine being Anthony Volpe because not only is the whole fan base dependent on you, your whole family is dependent on you. Like the pressure, the weight of that, like he wants to win more than anybody.
Yeah, sometimes it's like, rappers always say they don't like to go back to their hometown, and athletes say that sometimes too. Some guys want it. Some guys want that pressure. Some guys want that. But then when they actually have to deal with it, it's the way of the world, and especially when it's that position and it's that organization. It makes sense. Keith McPherson here, joining me here from WFAN. You want to say one thing on that? Volpe?
I was going to say, put a pen in that second baseman comment because I was just having a conversation with someone about they're probably not going to pay Jazz what he's worth. And let's see if Jazz has the prove-it season that he needs. I love Jazz, but, like, there's little things he does, like go on Twitter and do too much or get in the face of the umpires, get thrown out. Like, I don't know if they're going to pay Jazz. So who's your second baseman? You end up bumping Anthony Volpe to second base, and then here comes George Lombard Jr., their number one prospect who plays shortstop. Give it 2 years.
Right. And I want to ask you about Jazz, too, because he had a loud offseason. I mean, where he's going back and forth with whoever his fiance is and what her job profession is. You seem to be kind of maybe where I'm going with this, which is like, is he going to be long for, kind of the Yankee way? I kind of like that he's kind of. I think the Yankees sometimes need a wild guy. Like
yes.
The Yankees don't seem to love that, but I think I love it, and I think they kind of need that. I think they need a guy who kind of goes by the way of his own world, and you kind of have to maybe rein him in a little bit. But do you think the Yankee organization is going to be able to want to put up with everything that comes with Jazz? Not just on the field, where there are antics on the field, but then there are also the antics off the field as well.
Not for a long-term deal and not for at the money. He's one of the top second basemen, and he was an all-star last year. He might be the best second baseman in the American League. He's up there. Like, I think he might have been in maybe top 5. Maybe he was number 7. Jazz Chisholm, second base ranks. You know how MLB just did their top 100?
Yeah, I did see that.
He was the number 2 second baseman in MLB. So, like, if he stays healthy this year, he could easily have another 30 for 30 season, 30 steals, 30 home runs, because he missed a month and a half last year. And even when he came back last year, I remember this. He was at Fanatics Fest, and there's a clip. I saw him at MLB in their activation at Fanatics Fest. And I Show Speed wanted to race him. And he's like, bro, I'm not even healthy. He's like, when I get back healthy, he was playing, but he wasn't running full speed. He wasn't stealing bases. He had an injury that he came back and played with, but wasn't full go. If he can stay healthy all year, he definitely could be 30-30. He's probably shooting for 40-40. But yes, Jazz Jazz getting on Twitter and telling somebody SMD, we all laugh at it. We all think it's funny, but we're not the ones writing the checks. And I do feel like you need somebody that dresses like him, that drips like him on the field. Like, I love seeing what Jazz wore to the clubhouse and then what, swag he's going to wear from his cleats to his shin protector to his belt. So, like, we needed someone like that because the Yankees are too corporate and buttoned up sometimes, and Jazz can loosen it up. I remember there's a clip, they went and followed Jazz, a day in the life of Jazz, and they showed him rapping, and they showed him with his cat and his chef. And I'm like, cool, we needed the vibes. We needed someone with this type of emotion and energy. And, they had Jazz and Judge about to enter the field, and a beat was playing. I think it was Shook Ones. And Jazz is like bopping and like, kind of like rapping to himself. And Judge is like, let me hear something. And then Jazz says something like, yeah, I'm the prince of the city. Like, he starts rapping and he makes Judge laugh. And then they run out onto the field. And I'm like, we need that looser energy because there's so much pressure in Yankee Stadium to be the Yankees. But what I'm hoping with Jazz, especially after the shenanigans he had with the OnlyFans girl, and I don't even want to call her the OnlyFans girl. I don't know her name.
Yeah,
So excuse me. That is his fiance now. That is the future Mrs. Chisholm. I felt like he went about that all wrong because like we didn't need it. You could have kept that private. All that flexing and whatnot, I get it, but like you could have kept that private. It brought the wrong attention, wrong energy. It went viral. People going back and forth, people digging up her OnlyFans, and then you being like, oh, I knew she did on OnlyFans. That money's coming to my bank account. It looks goofy. It looks stupid. You could have just wifed her up. I think he was in Switzerland or Finland or something during the holiday. And like he was posting her with her cheeks out. Like, it's like, bro, we don't need all of that, bro. That's about to be your wife. She's about to enter the circle with Garrett Cole's wife and Judge's wife and Rodon's wife and Belly's wife. And like, chill. We don't need all of that, bro. Tone it down. And I think you'll be better for it. Do less. Say less. Less of the internet, man. You're a New York Yankee. You're a New York Yankee.
And I mean, you're as internet as it comes, but you know better than anybody. Like, sometimes the best thing is just not to respond to things. People can tell rumors, what your career is like, what your life is like behind the scenes, and they'll just say anything. They'll just throw things out there, just completely made up, or even if it's true, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Sometimes
I'll
the
say
best
this.
thing is a step away, right?
I try to keep my wife and my son off the internet because of the nonsense that goes on. But in this last 3 months since I stepped down from my time slot at WFAN, and I told people the main thing, the number one reason, the impetus for this change was I was putting my life, my career, my conquest to be this radio host, influencer, personality in New York ahead of the people that I live with and love me the most, my wife and my son. So I have started to show them a little bit more because that's just the next part of the story. But you also got to shield and protect them from anonymous dickheads that will throw stones and hide their hands. They don't deserve that. You know, they didn't ask for that. My son is not trying to be famous. My wife is not trying to be famous. They're not trying to be public figures. So it's got to be measured. And then also, you can never win. You can't beat the internet. The internet has already decided that I was fired from WFAN, which doesn't make any sense. Why would you fire somebody who's young and talented, that's got the social media part of it down, like whatever. But they've already decided for themselves that I was fired, I was kicked to the curb. Like now they're doing backflips and gymnastics to figure out, why am I doing the overnight, my first ever overnight? Why am I on Saturday on Valentine's Day coming up with a 5-hour show? They're trying to figure out, if he was fired, why has he done 6 shows? Like, because the internet will say, this guy sucked. He got pushed out. He was too hard on Met fans. He had a beef with John Heyman. He was a racist that attacked the caller for having an accent. And, you know, you can't win. They will, you know, if they don't have a story these days, they'll make one. That's Drizzy. Like, they will literally write about you and try and tell the world who you are and what you are. And there's nothing that you can do to send a message back to win. So just kind of, you know, sometimes bow out. The greatest response is no response.
No question about that. And you know it, and I've seen it behind the scenes. Like, it's so funny how little people know about anything that goes on behind the scenes
industry,
at a radio
the
station
business,
or the industry as a whole. And they'll just throw stuff out there, and they'll, again, like, it's almost like they're playing detective, trying to figure out, oh, this happened because X, Y, Z, and blah, 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 blah. And as someone who's in the industry, you're in the industry, like, it is sometimes interesting to kind of try to piece through why things are happening a certain way. But when you're involved in it and you know what's going on, to see the responses from people, and then again, it will catch wildfire. And athletes deal with it all the time, where like, it's like, what do? Do you jump in and try to stop it, or do you just let it ride? And again, like you said, the internet always wins. So if you let it ride, then it's like, well, that's,
you just gotta let it ride.
But there's nothing you can do about it.
There's no such publicity as bad publicity. I was on a stream last night, and I'm like, I haven't been in my full-time time slot on WFAN and coming up on 3 months. 10 days will make it 3 months since I did my last full-time show. But my followers are up. My subscribers are up. And my name is still popping up places where people are sending me threads and community posts and Reddit and stuff. I'm like, you guys are keeping my name alive. While I don't have that massive megaphone of WFAN every night, you guys are still talking about me. So go for it. And yes, like you said, right, all the rumors that go on, Does Giannis want to be a Milwaukee Buck?
Right.
No, he wants to go to the Knicks. They have to trade him. Oh, the Heat want him. The Warriors want him. The Brooklyn Nets might make a play. It's all nonsense. But that is entertainment. The people want the drama. You know, I literally went to the March of Dimes luncheon with WFAN like a week or two after I broke my own news. I'm sitting with the architect. I'm sitting with the head of sales. I'm sitting with the head of our Yankees operation. I'm sitting with Gio. I'm sitting with Keith Rad. I'm sitting with Dave Sims in a tie, in a room with L. Duncan, in a room with Adam Silver, in a room with, Rob Manfred and all of these people, Kurt Menefee, all of these people, Jason Kelsey. I'm in this room with like the who's who in sports in New York at the WFAN Odyssey table, and people are writing that I'm fired and that I got I'm just like, what do y'all need to see? What do I need to do to show you? Like, you know, now though, now my actual supporters, people that rock with me, they're like, yo, Keith told you the exact truth and you didn't want to believe it. So the lie and the facts is more salacious and entertaining than the truth. So go for it. Whatever keeps y'all entertained, whatever these goofies need. And a lot of this stuff like is done by grown ass men, bro. These are 40, 50-year-old dudes older than me. They got no lives. So go for it. We need y'all. We need you in the audience. We need you to be so wrapped up in what you don't know that you keep this engine running.
I'm excited to learn that apparently we're both on Saturday because I'm on 7 p.m. I don't know what time. I meant before you or after you?
Oh, so you're after me. Let me check the schedule. I actually got to log in.
Fire. That'd be dope.
No, Saturday's going to be a great day. I didn't know if I could pick it up because it's Valentine's Day. But my wife was like, "Go ahead. We'll get dinner and we'll chill at night. But go ahead and do your thing." And plus, now I've been home every day. My wife has not seen this much of me. I got married June 30th, 2021. We had the wedding on July 10th, 2021. I got my audition at WFAN August 25th, 2021. My first show was November 23rd, 2021. So like I literally entered this nighttime job in the honeymoon stage.
Right.
And my girl's been with me since college, but you want to talk about something that can try your relationship, something that can put a strain on your marriage. Try not being able to watch Netflix with your wife at night. Try not waking up with your wife and having coffee together in the morning. Like it was a challenge, but now I've been home so much. My wife is like, go take the show, do your thing. So I think Big Mac is on his regular Saturday post on Saturday at 9, and then I will be on at 1. John Boy Media Rewind will play at 6, and then EJ Stewart will take us home at night. Would you look at that? The universe never unconnects. Great.
There you go. That's gonna be awesome, man. And make sure you listen. If you don't got a honey to be spending Valentine's Day with, hang out with your boys for a couple hours. Listen to John Boy. Listen to C-Mac. It's gonna be a fun time with WFAN on Valentine's Day. It's funny. I feel like some folks definitely probably decided, oh, I'm going to go out with my girl. You've been with your girl forever. I've been with Andrea for 9. I'm going to be approaching 9 years. So
yes.
It's the thing where it's like,
Valentine's
Day.
To you, man. I would like to try and get down to the wedding. I don't know yet because it's just so far out. That's another thing, bro. I've got things percolating that people will see me go live and they'll be like, this guy went from WFAN to streaming in his mom's basement. I haven't lived with my mom in 10 years. My wife and I have been living together for 10 years. But I'm happy for you. I want to get down there. This guy's having his wedding on Juneteenth. I'm like, I know that's going to be some Black excellence vibes. Exactly. I'm like, if I could drive down there, I'm going to figure it out. And I love that, similar to me, right? I proposed to my wife going into the London series, and I told that story on WFAN. I didn't do it at the game. I did it in a special place so that the pictures would be cool. And then I told her, we got to get on the train and go to the game. So when I saw you propose in London at the London series, I was like,
I know.
My crazy, man, right? Don't propose in Times Square. Don't propose at Citi Field.
I think sometimes as fans, especially because, they see two Black hosts, they would say, oh, that's Keith or that's EJ. I've been called Keith a million times. Sometimes there is a yin and a yang
Oh, it used to be RJ, bro. It used to be RJ, bro. Anybody that's non-white, anybody that's got a little hip hop intro, rejoin, anybody that's got a little sound in their voice, like they might be urban. It's like, oh, hey, JR. But like JR hasn't been on for years now. So I'm sure. And I know I listen to your show. You make sure to say EJ Stewart on the fan. Same thing with me. I make sure to say Keith McPherson on the fan. So yeah, well, it is what it is.
But yeah, the wedding's gonna be fun. If you're able to make it, that'd be great. And I'm really excited about that happening over this summer. One last thing I wanted to mention as well. So like you obviously haven't been full time in the fan, but you've been busy. Like I've been following you. Everyone's following you. Talk about your followers been up. And one thing I said yesterday on the show, because I went on along, this show has been very much like I told folks I wanted to be the most authentic version of myself. Not that I'm not authentic on the fan or authentic anywhere else you see me, but like there's no overhead telling me what to talk about or like what topics I can hit or like so I can just do whatever I want. So I ended up showing people a lot of love. So I showed you a lot of love yesterday. But I was talking about how much I've appreciated, even before you left, how much you were so much about trying to lift up other content creators, other young people in this industry. And it feels like since you've taken that step back from the full time, that's also been a big part of this journey. You had this content content creator meetup with everybody, where everyone who came out and they got to shoot videos and shoot content. And why is that so important to you? Like, why is that something that you feel like I don't want to speak for you, but it almost seems like it's a calling that you feel like it is important to put other people on and to kind of show them the way and inspire, because you are an inspiration to a lot of people.
I'm blessed. And I find that if you don't share your blessings, you're going to limit the blessings that you got coming in the future. And also, when I go back to the past, I remember quitting my job at Rock Nation, having no job lined up, buying a new MacBook, buying a vlogging camera, getting the Adobe suite, teaching myself Photoshop, teaching myself Adobe Premiere. This is before we could edit the videos right in the apps in the phones. This is 2018.
Yep.
I remember sitting at my dining room table, applying to jobs, sending cover letters, and getting frustrated to the point almost of tears. Just having low funds and realizing I got to drive Lyft, Uber. I got to work at a restaurant. I got to sell my merchandise, sell my J's that I kept in mint condition, like just to be able to pay rent, just be able to pay bills. And going through that experience of feeling like I have no help, because I don't come from money. I don't have any nepotism. I came to New York on my own accord, and I, it's a big city of dreams. I felt like I was somebody that could make it. I feel like I've already done the hard part, and I don't want people to feel like they're doing the hard part without any help. So what I always say is, like, I got to the top, and now I'm sending the ladder down. I got to the top. I'm sending the rope down. Come up. You might not get all the way to the top, but you could get a couple pegs up where, like, maybe now you're doing influencer marketing. Maybe now you have 5,000 followers. Maybe now you're able to monetize your account because I shared my light. And when I stepped down, I put that announcement out. And I put that announcement out to be transparent, just to get in front of the story. And it went viral. It went more viral than anything I've ever put out. And, like, I'm talking millions. As we speak today, that video was viewed by well over 8 million people, which, like, that shows you the power of WFAN, but that also shows you, like, I'm a trailblazer. I'm different. I'm a disruptor. Nobody had ever stepped down from a full-time radio position and not announced it on the radio. I did it on my social media. But as I saw my phone, and that's another thing, I'm a former social media manager. So I've been behind MTV's accounts. I've been behind Fubo TV's accounts. I've been behind athletes like Todd Gurley and Leonard Fournette's accounts when I worked at Rock Nation. So when I saw that, when I saw the just views and comments and shares and whatever, I'm like, damn, I'm like, yo, this is nuts. And I'm like, what do I do next? I share the light and I collab with people. And I had this idea for that content creator event for months. And shout out to Bleecker Trading, who I actually met in Washington Heights. We did a career day. And I come in there strolling with my WFAN polo, my WFAN, my Yankee hat, and my WFAN postcards. And these kids, these black and brown kids, black and Latino kids, none of them knew what WFAN was for real. None of them drive. It was middle school. And it clicked to me there because I brought my MacBook and my phone. Once I started showing them my TikTok, my Instagram, my YouTube, Oh, you're a YouTuber. You're a content creator. Oh, you're an influencer. Then I started to get people by my table asking me questions and stuff. And I'm like, this is the way. When I was a kid, I wanted to be on radio and TV. I did it. I've been on MLB Network. I've been on Yes Network. I hosted my own radio show solo for 4 years. I did it. But the internet is the way now. There are no gatekeepers. You don't have to get a college degree. You don't have to have somebody look at your resume. If you're dope, they will find you. Put yourself out there. So the long and short of it is I just wanted to share the light that I got. I wanted, to help other people. And like I'm saying, when you do that, your blessings get 10x'd. And when you say I've been busy with what I can show people. But there's a ton of conversations and lunches and meetings that I can't show and that I can't, speak on yet. But I'm extremely blessed and I'm excited for the start of baseball season. And then I've got a lot more to show people. And I believe I can be a lot more dynamic than just a 3-hour radio show Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., which I'm grateful for. But evolve or dissolve. You got to challenge yourself. If you want to go where you've never gone, you have to do what you've never done. And that's what I'm in the process of doing right now.
I love that, man. We got a question here in the chat. You mentioned earlier about some of the viral moments you had. One that you already mentioned already, so I'll bring it up here. So my friend Ariel says, hey, Keith, the John Heyman interview you had in 2024 is my all-time favorite interview moment. I was dying. Did you make amends with Heyman, and did any blowback from the fan when that happened?
No blowback from the fan. First off, what I will say is during that time, we had covered Juan Soto nonstop. It was Juan Soto coverage. It was round-the-clock coverage on the fan and everywhere else. And I am a fan. I wake up, I watch all of the sports shows from First Take to Get Up to Sports Center to MLB Network to NFL Network. I'm just constantly I'll put up the picture-in-picture with 4 screens and just trying to take in that information. And everybody was covering Juan Soto. I used to also do some live streams for Bleacher Report. So I'm also tapped in on their app. And I saw John Heyman go on Bleacher Report and do the Juan Soto conversation that day. He went on Michael Kay and did that conversation. He went on MLB, and all of the conversations were the same. So a Friday night comes. I go back home to the crib to get a fresh fade and a shape up because I only go to my one Puerto Rican barber down there that knows what to do. And he also works right across the street from my mom, so I can always kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But it ended up being a long day. I got to drive an hour south, spend 3 hours down there, drive an hour back up. And I tell Connor, Connor, obviously one of the producers, I'm like, yo, I need a host I need a guest tonight for the show I'm hosting 5 hours. I need somebody to talk baseball, Juan Soto. He's able to get John Heyman. I'm like, okay, great. And as I'm driving up, I'm like, how do I do something different and fun and not ask John Heyman the same exact questions that he's already answered over and over again?
Yep.
So a mistake on my part, being young and being a child of the internet and thinking that I could joke with people. I was just saying this last night. I come from a culture of cutting ass, roasting, joking. Yeah. You get on the school bus, even if your outfit is fire, we gonna find some way to cook your ass. Boy, untie them tight ass shoes. It's just that is just regular. Yeah. Don't take it so serious. My best friends now even roast me. I don't know. I learned that you can't joke with everybody. No blowback from the fan because you know what? I think her name was Susan Larkin, who used to be the CEO of WFAN or Odyssey. Right. I saw her at the holiday party, and you know what she said to me? She was like, nice to meet you. She's like, out of all of the Juan Soto coverage we did that week leading up to him signing, that went viral. That peaked our meters. That got the most conversation. That's what people talked about. So, again, there's no such publicity as bad publicity. He tweaked. Even my boss, Ryan Hurley, he had to get on the phone with him. He talked to him a bunch of times. We went to the Islanders game in John Ledecky's suite the next day, right? That Saturday. That was a Friday night show. And everybody from WFAN is there, and they're all talking about that was classic. Gio, Evan, Big Mac. They're all talking about how nobody was expecting that to happen, and that is radio gold. When you get somebody to tweak like that, you evoke some emotion like that. Yeah. So I'll say this. I ran into John, and I apologize on air, and I apologize through some other channels, and then I ran into John at spring training the following year. So That was November. I ran into John in March in the media area because I was going to get on with Dave and Susan just to do an inning like I've done in the past with her and John, like just popping in. Hey, here we have Keith McPherson, on the broadcast for the 6th inning. And what I'll say, this made me feel like the bully in high school that, like, when you just happen to, run into somebody in the hallway that you don't want to see. I felt like that was how John looked at me. And I'm not a bully and I'm not a mean guy. And when I saw him, I tried to, hey, John, tried to flag him down because I wanted to man apologize and say, hey, that got to a place that I didn't think it was going to get. Joking with you about Scott Boras and you taking a cut. I wasn't trying to slander you. I wasn't trying to say that, I'm like, I didn't come up with that. This is what they say on the internet. And I was trying to have fun with you. It was 8:30 on a Friday night. Like, no hard feelings. I don't hate you. I don't have anything against you. Like, let's make amends. And I kid you not, he saw me. He looked away, like the kid with the soda, the black kid with the soda, and he darted the other way. And so I'm like, either he doesn't like me, and I know he doesn't respect me because part of the call was, you're not a journalist. You don't know how any of this works. And I'm like, no, I'm not a journalist, bro. I was in the communication department with the people that study journalism, and I was going downstairs to the TV station and upstairs to the radio station, and like, right. I graduated communication, radio, and television, but I took media law and media ethics and journalism and all that. I didn't want to be a pen pusher. What you trying to say? But the long and short of it is, John did not want to make amends. We had an opportunity there, so fuck him. Like now, and so now I'm like, you're an op. Now I look at you like you're a crab, you're a curmudgeon, you're old, and like your old voice, you're raspy, old looking, stale ass. Like now, like we're forever linked together. And I tried to apologize. I tried to take the high road, but now I see how you want it to be. Like, I don't think he respects me. I don't think he thinks I deserve his time. I could be wrong about that. What I'd love to do is some content with John at any point where we talk about that night in that moment. And I apologize on camera. And then maybe we can joke about it and laugh about it now 2 years later, or really just a year and some change later. But I don't think he looks at me as someone that belongs in the media. I don't think he respects me as a radio host. I don't know how much he respects WFAN. He said he was done with WFAN that night, and then I heard him come on Mark Malusa's show. So whatever, bro. It's one of those things, right? They'll never erase that. For the 4 years I was on WFAN, that is a all-time moment that people will remember on WFAN that they can never take away from me. So it is what it is.
Sound like J. Cole and Poor Thing right there. It was all like F him. No, right. I mean, listen, right. that's the industry, man, and it's one of those things where it's Gabo's game ain't based on sympathy, and if people aren't gonna treat you with the kind of respect that you feel you deserve, then that's kind of, you gotta keep it moving. I think that would be fire, by the way, though, if you guys did actually do some kind of interview, some kind of sit down. Like that would be, and like minute, that's the problem with that.
1 minute reel. It could be a 1 minute short at spring training. Hey, I have not gotten to speak with John Heyman since that night. Here's John. Here I am. John, first off, I want to say I apologize for how that call went. I could have handled that in a different way. I could have been more respectful. But from my end, I just want you to know that I was trying to lighten the mood. It was Friday night. I'm a fan of yours. I listened to all of your interviews, and I just wanted to take a different approach. I thought it would be a joke, something you would laugh off. You took it personal. You got emotional, and I apologize as a man for doing that. It isn't how I want you to, feel about me. And I hope we can move forward from here. Hey, Keith, it's in the past now. And you know how John's voice is, it's in the past now, so yeah. I'm not going to make too much about it. I didn't like it at the time. And, what was funny that night? He was on Twitter, and like my Twitter went crazy that night. I got followers off of it. People were doing think pieces on it, whatever. Yeah. But he kept talking to people. And somebody said to him, John, did you drop the N-bomb after that call? And he said yes. He thought they said F-bomb. And people screenshotted that and ran with it. I'm like, John, log off. Go to bed. Clearly you were having a rough day, night. You made it worse, but whatever. It's just one of those moments, man. Everybody that knows baseball knows John Heyman. And I thought we were straight. I thought because I ran into him at MLB Network when I was on that year, just in passing. And then I've also seen him in the media area at Yankee Stadium. You can't joke with everybody, though. Unless you have a personal relationship with somebody, don't go on air or on a podcast and joke with them because they'll take it some type of way. And, his I can't believe it. I can't even believe it. It's like that became a they played that on Pardon My Take. They played that that grew so many legs, and I can never get rid of it. And like I said, right now he's an op. Right now it's like, yo, no, I don't rock with you, bro. Like, we're not cool. But one day I hope we can make amends and do a piece of content together. I'm not on WFAN at night anymore, but I'm not leaving the media industry. I'm not leaving New York. I'm not going anywhere. So I'll see him when I see him.
Yeah, I think that content, you could do a funny joke about it where maybe you flip sides or whatever. It's so many things you could do. But again, that goes back to you talk about like the age gap and knowing where digital is going, right? Like John, like that's the opportunity for him to do something with you that could go super viral that would help his career, right? So I hope that could happen because that would be fire. And now my producer brain's in my head because I'm thinking about the 10 different ideas I would have to do some kind of content with you guys. I think it would be a lot of fun. And you're the creative mind, so you already know that you could have some gold.
But he wouldn't do it. I don't think he values me, and I don't think he'll see the value in that content. That's the perch that he was on. I've been doing this for 30 years, right? Bro is damn near a senior citizen. Like, who are you? You're young. You've been on the radio for 4 years, and like, there's a lot of people that feel like I don't deserve that position. There are a lot of people that called me a DEI hire. I didn't even know what DEI meant. Like, there are a lot of people that felt like this guy gets to replace Steve Summers. I think I did my thing, though. I think I showed I belonged and proved myself and literally created a new sound, a new wave, a new style of show that WFAN had never heard before. But I definitely feel that energy. Even like Joel Sherman. I don't fuck with Joel Sherman either because I ran into Joel Sherman in the media area and I said, hey, Joel, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, would you consider being a guest on my show? And he had his coffee and he basically was like, he said, I forget what he said, but he's like, it depends, but not likely. And like, it was just like, he had no interest in that. But meanwhile, like I've run into Jeff Passan in the media area. Jeff Passan is like, hey, take my number. Jeff Passan that night, bro. That night, want to know how funny that was? Like, this is Jeff Passan, whose number is blown up by agents and people all the time. That night, when Heyman tweaked, this is my exchange between Passan right there. You see all the skull, the dead laughing emojis?
Yeah, I see it. Everybody can see that.
I was on air with Heyman at 8:30. At 8:58, Passan is texting me laughing with 10 skull dead emojis.
Keith, man, love you. It's been so fun having you here. Gotta get you out on this Yankee prediction. And you probably. I'm sorry if you want to save this for your show, but for the sake of my audience, I want to ask you, what do you feel like prediction for this season? How does it end?
World Series. We're approaching the longest drought in history. We are fighting against our own history if we let the Dodgers go and win 3 in a row. There are people that are looking at the hourglass and the sand on Aaron Judge's career, Garrett Cole's career, Giancarlo Stanton's career in pinstripe, saying, if not now, when? And then last but not least, the lockout. We're going to lock out, and we don't know how long it's going to take for them to agree on sides. The owners are going to push for a salary cap. The players damn sure don't want that. I don't know. I think we'll get baseball, but we don't know what baseball is going to look like. They've tweaked baseball year after year. There's a pitch clock now, right? They banned the shift. There's bigger bases now. Now this year we have the ABS system where you can challenge calls. The game has changed a lot. Now, everybody plays everybody in baseball. The schedule changed. So I don't know where we're going, but Yankee fans are so stuck on the 27 championships and the dynasty and the three-peat and how dominant the Yankees were back when baseball was like that. Yeah. These Yankees are not like what they were, and the league is not like what it was. George Steinbrenner, rest in peace, has been gone for over a decade. Their mentality is not like George's mentality. Hal is not his pops, but he's still spending money. They still have a talented team. And, the Dodgers, they're the new evil empire. I would love more than anything for this to be a rematch where we could get our lick back from 2024, and then we can even stop them from winning 3 in a row, win our World Series, get 28, get Judge a ring, get Cole a ring, get Stanton a ring, and have a fucking parade in New York. Finally, it's been too long.
Keith McPherson, it's great. This is the second time we've shared mics together. We had that one show where something happened and it led into my show, and I was coming on after you. We did the first hour, and that was so much fun. And we were like, we gotta do this again at some point. This is gonna happen.
That was the only time I ever did the overnight. And what happened was the game went so long, and I prepared takes and thoughts on the show, and I had like a 9-minute show. I'm like, yo, let me see if EJ will let me come in and rock during his show. Like, I drove all the way here, paid the toll for a 10-minute airtime slot. Like, nah, man.
And that was so fun. And like I always say, like that's my first year doing shows on the Fan. So, and that might have been my first like.
You were early in getting your reps in.
So like
that's why I knew too I could ask. And I knew I could ask.
But you know me, I'm like this square who's like, oh, I gotta ask Spike, and I don't know, like, because me and Spike were not at that point. Spike asking, of course, our boss at the time. We were going back and forth to what kind of shows we're gonna do and how I should approach everything. And I'm like, well, I know he wants to hear me do opens, like. Is he going to be upset that Keith's here? Like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to.
No, you did your open, though. You did your open.
I did. I know I did. I remember that. Yeah. So let me do my open. I'll bring you in. But I was like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm ducking, like, his, like, evaluation of me by, like, having Keith on. But I realized,
Spike brought me in, too. Spike had the vision, too. Spike took a huge chance on me that people were looking at him like, yo, what? It's like, obviously, we needed some diversity. And the last thing I'll say is diversity isn't just your skin color. Right, I'm from New Jersey. I'm from the shore. I'm not from Long Island like majority of the hosts. Right, I root for teams that the collection of teams, the Yankees, Cowboys, Devils, Nets. They're like, yo, what kind of fan is this? Yeah. I come on the air kicking raps about football. They had never heard anything like that. I played college football. So outside of Boomer playing at Maryland and Tiki playing at UVA, Keith playing at James Madison University in Monmouth. That added another level of diversity. So you need diversity of thought, experiences, and that can really help, the programming on the radio station. And I did that, and you do that as well. So I'm excited to hear your show on Saturday night, and I thank you for bringing me on your 40 days and 40 nights. I'm rooting for you, bro, and keep pushing. I'm glad I was able to add some numbers. You know, we've got 325 people watching in here. I'm also on the YouTube. I shared that on my, community post on YouTube. Keep building your subscribers. Keep just chopping wood and carrying water, and don't trip about the numbers. And don't let any of these goofies try and downplay your numbers. If there was 327 people sitting in a classroom right now, right, in a college classroom right now, that would be the biggest classroom on campus, and we'd be holding it down. So keep doing your thing, bro. I'm rooting for you, and you got my help whenever you need it.
I appreciate that. Keith McPherson joining me here for 40 Days, 40 Nights. Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. That's my guy. Shout out Keith McPherson. He brought the fire. And that's what's exciting about all these guests I brought on. Like I said, I want these guests to be a reflection of the people I admire in this industry. People that I think, for folks who, Keith has obviously a way bigger platform than me. But, if you followed me from my time on Maggie and Perloff, you may not be hearing me on the Fan. You might not really know much about my New York sensibility, my New York radio career. And Keith has been, one of my biggest cheerleaders, even though there's this kind of concept, right, that like, oh, they can only be one of us, right? And he's going to kind of hold his, his spot and not, as he said, left that ladder down. Remember I told you about the elevator I said a couple days ago? Like, he's a guy that, one of my former AAU coaches who say that when you go up the elevator, you send it back down. He basically used the same analogy, but he used the ladder or the rope. It's the same thing, right? And he's someone that's just a good dude. A good dude, and I appreciate him, and I'm really happy for everything that he's got going on in his career. And I'm really excited and really thankful that he was able to come on this show. And that's the kind of guest I want to bring. I want to bring people that bring different thoughts, different ideas, different energy, can speak to what they've done in their career, inspire other people. I feel like I try to inspire the people I have. I try to inspire them. And then there's other people who have even bigger platforms than me that can be inspired by them as well. So it was important to hear some of Keith McPherson's stories. I'll be honest, I didn't know if I'd get all the tea when it came to the John Heyman stuff. I don't know how much of that stuff he said publicly. Some of that stuff I knew privately, but there were some news stories in there that I didn't know. I didn't know he ran into John Heyman. And John Heyman, again, I love that he used the analogy with the kid, the chunky kid with the soda who's looking because he's afraid to talk to some girl, and that was basically John Heyman as he's seeing Keith McPherson coming after him when it's like Keith McPherson is the most non-threatening person ever. But the other thing he said too that I think is important is like when it comes to diversity and it not being just skin color, how important that is, because we joked about it because it's a running joke for me, not maybe as much for him, but definitely for him as well too. This idea that like any person that even sounds black on the air, we all get confused for each other. Keith being the person that was on regularly, he probably gets the least confused for it, but there are plenty of people who have called me Keith, who have called him JR. I've been called JR. JR's probably been called EJ. It's just how it goes. Shout out to JR Sport Brief. And I love that he said that diversity is not skin color, because what strikes me about that is me and Keith also couldn't be more different in many ways. We have some similarities, like we both love hip hop. We both bring elements of rap to our shows, right? But he's a Yankee fan. I'm a Mets fan. He's a Nets fan. I'm a Knicks fan. He is obviously Mr. like all about digital engagement and being out there and being like a fan, right? I am a fan, but I don't really present myself as a fan enthusiast in terms of who my sports personality is. So but I bring this sensibility. He's from Jersey. I'm from Queens. We root for different teams. There's a slight age gap. He's a little older than me, right? So it's when it comes to diversity, it isn't just they're diverse now, but they got two black guys, but they're the same. Me and them, you see the personalities, right? You've seen this show. I've been on for 23 days. That's now, do that math, 45 shows. It'll be 46 when we get to the night. 46 shows in a row. So you get an impression of what my vibe is, what my personality is. Like I said, this is the most authentic version of myself. And Keith is a very different personality. But that's an important aspect of it, that we all create diversity with the station because of us all being together. And you can just have a show with Keith. You can have a show with me. You can have a show with C-Mac on Saturday. And it's going to be 3 entirely different shows, and it's going to be entirely different sensibilities. C-Mac has his own journey and his own show. I would love to have him on. He's one of those folks where it's like one of the hardest to get on just because of his job. Like he has to get ready for his show probably around the time I'm on in the morning, and then he's leaving his show by the time that I go on night. So C-Mac might not be possible. I would love to get some more people from WFAN. We had Mike Fliegelman earlier in the 40 Days, 40 Nights. He was awesome. But like that's the reality of this, that it's not just about, we need diversity, which means you need skin color. No, diversity means just bringing people with different sensibilities. And you'll be talking to various different corners of your audience that are all going to be able to relate. Like I love the amount of people that I'll be able to connect with through social media, through just people being able to hear me on the radio. And like, I'll like get a follow. I'm like, ooh, this person's followed me. And they may even say, hey, EJ, love your stuff. That was great. Like, appreciate you. And then I'll go and I look at their social media and I'll be like, ooh, that person is very different from how I view the world and all things about that. But the fact that like, again, like that doesn't matter, right? Because they saw something in me and I brought something to the table that was unique and something that was different, or something that wasn't actually unique or different, something that actually was relatable, but maybe they hadn't heard from somebody else. And now I'm bringing it to the floor, and they really appreciated that, even if we may have all these other different things that are totally against, the grain, right? To kind of take from Andrew Perloff, like especially the Maggie Perloff audience, where like I'm a New Yorker, right? I'm from Queens, and I've gained followers, people who watch this show from all over the country, all over the world. The amount of people who will call me on the fan are listening in Mexico. I've had that a couple of times. I'm like, you're in Mexico calling me? Why are you calling me? But like it's just that vibe and that energy that is important to have, and the more you're able to embrace that for these companies, I think for just how we view definitely sports media, I think it's vital, and Keith's a great representation of that. Shout out to Keith McPherson, man. He did a phenomenal job. He brought the heat. He gave you everything you could have asked for. For a guy who does most of his shows at night, the early mornings weren't a problem for him. He definitely brought the energy. And, man, I greatly appreciate that, man. There's really nowhere else for me to go. I could talk about Kawhi Leonard, but I could say that for later. Because the whole point of it was I actually kind of wonder, like, at this point, have we kind of jumped the shark on this? Like, how much more do we need to hear about Uncle Dennis stealing money from stealing money is not the right word, but you know what I mean. Find a way to get money from under the table from the Clippers in order to get more money to Kawhi to circumvent the cap. The question is, what is the NBA going to do about it? So we'll play that sound a little bit later tonight, and we'll see what else we get into, man. But this was already a rock star kind of week. You start with Andrew Perloff. You got now, obviously, Keith McPherson. Who else may show up this week? We know Kendall will, my brother. He's on Friday nights. He obviously used to work for the Vikings. He's also a big member, obviously, of New Generation Media. So we have Kendall Fridays, so that'll be exciting. And for those who are on here, who are watching because they, would want to check out Keith, so that you know what this is, what show was he on, what were they just watching? You're watching 40 Days and 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart. This is a web series. Everyone tries to describe what it is. It's always funny because I never really tell people what it is, and they'll say, "Oh, it's EJ. He's got this." I don't know what this guy. They say podcast. Well, show. I always say live stream. That's the best way I think to describe it. Have a twice a day live stream. But people try to say podcast, show. What is it? I think the way I would describe it is probably web series. It's a limited series because it's literally 40 days and 40 nights, where for every weekday for 40 days, I do 2 shows per day. And what I call it, and the way I describe it, is it's sports centered. Not to be confused with Sports Center. It's sports centered in that a lot of it is sports. This whole show has primarily been sports. But there's going to be other aspects. We're going to talk about hip hop. Honestly, like Keith, I'm so happy for that Keith McPherson came on. I hope I didn't keep him too long. If he's still watching, he could text me and say, "Hey, that was fine." Because I put in I sent a calendar invite because he's big time. So they sent me a calendar invite so he remembers and everything, and he can fit in his schedule. So I sent him a calendar invite. I think the thing said 20 minutes. He was here for 50 minutes, maybe an hour. So hopefully I didn't keep him too long. But no, this is a thing we're doing all throughout this winter, where we're going to be doing 2 shows per day. It's sports centered, where it's a sports show, but we also talk about other things. At Keith forever, but I would have loved to have asked him about the J. Cole album. I made a J. Cole reference that I think he kind of picked up on, because when an album first comes out, it's a little hard to pick up all the songs and the names of the songs. I was even forgetting about names of the songs yesterday from old albums. That shows you just how old you get. But I mentioned Poor Thing because that's a song. That's one of my favorite songs in the album, where he's rapping about some guy that he has beef with in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm like, that's how Keith McPherson sounded talking about John Heyman. I feel like I need the ether music underneath it. I need to have that handy next time someone, whether it's me or someone else, goes on a kind of rant like that. I need to have that ether music ready. I can just play underneath whenever that comes, because that was perfect. But I would love to talk to him about hip hop and rap, because he loves rap. I think he's a big fan of J. Cole because he's rapped. I've seen he's posted a lot about J. Cole in the album. So I would love to have heard his thoughts on it. But no, this is a show where we talk about all things, man. We talk about sports. That's primarily what we talk about. But we talk about superhero movies. We do hero talk on this YouTube channel and on our podcast channel. So we talk about Marvel, DC stuff. We talk about reality TV, which I want to get to in a second before I get out of here. We talk about everything, man. We don't really talk politics. So if that's your jam, sorry, this is not the place. It's not that I'm avoiding it, but it's just not. That's not where I'm going for this show. I always tell you my sensibilities and my hopes for justice and equality for everybody. That's where I stand, and I have no problem talking about that. But that's not the primary focus of the show. But we're here for the good time. That's how I describe it. Is that I remember when Bomani Jones started. Shout out to Bomani Jones. I don't have a story about Bomani Jones, but I guess it's kind of a story. And I mean, I'll get to it at one point. But shout out to him. He's one of my biggest inspirations currently working in this industry right now. Even if you may hate me, which is part of the story. But anyway, I remember Bomani Jones talking about when he was doing High Noon, I believe, with Pablo Torre. Ironically, because we were talking about Pablo Torre today, and he said that because Bomani talks a lot about a lot of heavy things, he talks a lot about social issues and things like that, and social sensibilities with sports. And when they were asking, "Oh, what's the show going to be about?" and they were asking him a lot about that aspect of the show, and this was again that show came up around the time where I don't think it was the pandemic, but I think we kind of were leaning towards athletes. We're in an era of athletes being more outspoken about social issues. And he said, listen, I'm not going to avoid that stuff, but I want to be clear, I'm here for the good times. This show is going to be about having the good time. You want to have a laugh. I don't want everything to just be super heavy. And that's how I describe this show. I'm not going to run away from serious topics. We had to talk about, what happened with, Steve Tisch and the Giant, owner and his relations with the Epstein investigation. So we're not going to shy away from it at all. But it's just, again, it's not. I want to have fun. I want you guys to come in and laugh. I want you guys to be entertained. So that's the main purpose of this. But this is the show, man. We come on. We have fun guests. Talk about what they think about sports, what they think about their careers, and then they want to talk about outside of sports. Like we had Bart Winkler come on, former host on Infinity Sports Network and local radio host in Milwaukee, and he was talking about all the stuff going on with the Marvel universe. Him and Carlos Ortiz, his producer. Like this is what the show's about. So we bring on Keith to talk about the Yankees, and we get a great question. Shout out to my guy Marquito Ariel, who asked the question bravely. You know, what did you think about what happened with John Heyman? And you get an awesome response. And that's the kind of moments I want to create on this show. And it's crazy to think that we're winding down. Not winding down, but, you know, see, this, I'm just looking at this number. I'm really looking at my screen, looking at the number. I see, like, day 23. It's like, wow. Like, it's, like, really, like, when it hits 30s, I'm like, yo, like, we're really coming down to the end of this. This is crazy. So, who else you want to hear from? Hit me up on social media. Hit me up in the comment section. I can't make promises. You probably won't get Bomani Jones on this show. I don't think you'll get Pat McAfee on the show. I think those guys are a little busy. But I think you guys know the people that I have some connection with from where I work and who I know. Like, I think there are some people that kind of make sense, that could make sense. So if there's people you want to hear on 40 Days and 40 Nights you want to see, let me know and I can make some phone calls and make some texts to see what happens. You've seen Maggie Gray. You've seen Andrew Perloff. You've now seen Keith McPherson. Who else we've had? We had Tommy Beer. We've had some really great guests. And we have more great guests coming up. That's the thing about this. This is, I know we're kind of winding down, but this ain't stopping in terms of the good times and the fun guests and the fun conversations we're going to have. And there's some people that have already been confirmed. I'm going to hold in terms of, you know, announcing them as we get closer to them. And I would love to see get some more guests this week. But whoever you want to hear from, you know I worked at the Fan. Or I always do that. I still work at the Fan. It's always weird with the whole part-time, full-time thing. But you know I work at the Fan. You know I worked at Infinity Sports Network. You know I worked at Spectrum News New York 1. There's a lot of people you get to know in the industry that potentially could be guests for this show. And then there's people that you don't know that I know, that I've also planned to have on, that I'm excited about. So hit me up when you get a chance. Let me know what you want to do and who you want to hear from. But this is our show. We're on twice a day, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Thought I was a little late today. Again, apologies for that. Technical difficulties, which I don't know if it was related to what happened with Keith, where he couldn't use his headphones. That was weird. I felt really annoyed by that. I don't want to diss Ecamm, because Ecamm has me streaming live, and they're doing their thing. But, like, there are some aspects of it I think that they could improve. There's some aspects that are awesome, that are great, and I love it. But, you know, it was sucked that Keith couldn't use his headphones. We had that little minor technical glitch before we got going. And once we got going, though, it was a great interview. But again, we're streaming live on YouTube, 8 a.m., 6 p.m. every day. YouTube, New Generation Media, X, EJ_Stewart, where we got still hundreds of viewers right now. We got 342 viewers on X, which is super dope. And then we got people watching on Instagram Live as well, Action EJ. And like I said before, all of these shows, they get podcasted. So if you missed this show or you just came in just now and you're like, oh crap, I missed Keith McPherson and I don't have time to watch this on my YouTube, it's okay. We post the episodes after they're done to our podcast channel. Just search New Generation Podcast Network wherever you get your podcast, and you can get all the episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights. I felt bad because yesterday I said that, the Andrew Perloff interview should already be up, and it wasn't. It's a long story, but I uploaded it as a WAV file by accident, but I thought it'd be fine because I'm like, well, now it sounds even more clear because it's now a WAV and not an MP3. But apparently it was having massive problems actually processing, even though it was uploaded. So it wasn't actually up there yet. I believe it should be up there now. I checked it late last night. So if you want to check that conversation with Andrew Perloff, he was here also for about 50 minutes to an hour. That's great. If you want to check out this conversation with Keith McPherson, you want to go back to it and you can't watch, it'll be up on the podcast channel. I will remember to upload it as MP3 this time. And it'll be up shortly after this show ends here as we get to close to the 10:30. We're past 10:30 now here Eastern time in New York City. One more thing before we get out of here. It's a big night in the Stewart Lynch household. Love is Blind returns. Love is Blind is back. It is our favorite reality series. It is a messy series. I think we're now in season 10. I think we know the answer that love is indeed not blind. But if you have not watched this show, it is a show where essentially they gather I don't know the exact number, but let's just say 30 singles. Like 15 men, 15 women. It might be more, maybe even 40, something like that. And they get these people usually they're from the same area. Like they usually, like they live from, they've done like Atlanta and Seattle and Dallas and all a bunch of different kinds of cities. Charlotte, they did one year. And they gather them and they put them in hotel. I don't know how else I would describe it. But it's like a split hotel where there's these dating pods where they all date each other from behind a wall. They can't see each other. All they know is their voices and whatever they're willing to tell them about themselves, but they don't know anything else about them. And they call it a quote-unquote experiment to see if these folks who, when you're out there and when you're dating and you have these, like, you're self-conscious about certain things, you have these certain preferences about a guy being this tall, a girl being this thin, or being this ethnicity, or all those other things. If we took all of that away and you just got to talk to a human and try to get a human connection, could you fall in love and get married? That is the premise of the show. So these people who have no access to their phones, no access to Instagram, no access to anything, they gotta just wake up every day, have breakfast, and then date for 15, 16 hours and whittle all these people down to find the one person that may be for them. And if they so choose, they can get engaged and then go on a journey where they have 30 days to then live together in their same city, in their same town, and determine whether or not they want to get married. That is the premise of the show. So you hear that, you probably say, what could go wrong? A lot of things can go wrong, right? People have lie about their lives. People get on the show now. One thing that's been like not great for the show is people getting on to like get attention or get like followers. Like that kind of sucks, right? And that kind of does. But you forget about even like that aspect of it. Just like what can go wrong just from this, like, oh, I'm all about this person, I love them, and then they see them like, oh, I can't match the physical attraction to you, even though I told you I was gonna be your wife or your husband for the rest of your life. Like, people having problems where the family members aren't happy that they just got engaged to someone that they don't even know. Like, it becomes a complete mess. There's always crazy things happening in this series, so it's one of my favorites. And it starts tonight, new season. They always drop the week of Valentine's Day, which is always just like really, guys, it's really on the nose here, dropping this on Valentine's Day. And you think, oh, it's so good. And to be honest, I enjoy the pod episodes the most because the first, usually, and it depends, it's usually 10 to 11 episodes or so. Usually the first 3 to 4 usually are like the episodes where they're just dating in the pod, trying to figure out if there's anyone here for them. And the rest of it is then them living together and having to meet each other's families, go out on dates. They go back to work, right? They actually do their normal job, so they're having like the grind of like doing their jobs. And even that comes with stress because like they don't get to live in their own like homes. Like they live in a shared home that the show gives them, so they're not even in their actual cribs. So again, all different chaos can ensue with this kind of situation. So we love this show. My favorite parts of the pod parts, because that's a part of it that's actually kind of wholesome, because you end up rooting for these people, because you hear, when you get in these situations, these people start revealing things about their lives that they never would have revealed to people. There are so many people who come on and say, I never told anybody about this feeling I have about the loss of a loved one, or what I dealt with as a kid, or this anxiety I have, or this social condition I have that people don't know about. Like, you end up, like, these people like pour their hearts into this, and you see these people fall in love. And it actually begins, there's some mess during the pod stuff too. But for the love stories, it's beautiful. It's like, this is a beautiful thing to see. And then they leave those pods and they go out into the real world, and that's where the BS continues. That's where the BS starts. And it's a wild ride. The last season was in Colorado, in Denver. How do I feel about this last season? This was a season where no one got married, which was crazy. It's the first time I think that's happened. Last season was weird. There were some weird people. I've been saying, shout out to my good friend Peter Bellotti. He says this about the Colorado Rockies, where he says that, he says, I will run their team for free. He was like, I will, like, he's like, the team is so bad that it's so inept. I just saw, by the way, Chris Bryant is going to be out for another 60 days or whatever. I forgot that guy plays baseball. I legit forgot he existed. So I saw him come up on my timeline yesterday that he's again injured. Forget that he was on the Rockies. I forgot that he existed. Kind of like what I played the sound of Kendrick Perkins last week when you saw about Chris Porzingis. He was like, I forgot bro played basketball. That's kind of how I felt about Chris Bryant. I was like, I forgot bro played baseball. I forgot he existed. I forgot he was a human. So Pete Bellotti has a joke where he's like, you're so bad, I will run your team for free. He does that for the Rockies, and he does it for the White Sox. That is what the standing offer I have for Love is Blind. That I will cast your show for free. Because they've run into some issues, and I feel like there are simple issues that can be fixed if you find the right folks. But they keep putting in people who clearly aren't ready for marriage, who clearly aren't ready for that kind of commitment, which they think is kind of the point, because I think the hope is that they can get, they're good TV. But also, I think the thing is, maybe we got to get some people who maybe are skeptical, who then they find the love of their life, and they're like, oh my God, I was this, F-boy, or I was this F-girl, and then I found this charming man and woman, and now I'm going to be married, and now my life is set. Like, I think that's part of the story, too. It's just that doesn't happen very often. Typically, the F-boys remain the F-boys, the F-girls remain the F-girls, and that's just what it is. So, I always say, listen, man, hire me. I'll do it for free. It probably takes a weekend or two. Bring in hundreds of people. I'll ask them the right questions. I could get you the right kind of folks to get you the most highly successful number of pairings for Love is Blind. Now, I don't know if they want so many successful pairings, to be honest. I think they like the mess. I think they like the drama. But I do think between last year, the one in Minnesota that I think ended with, I believe, only one wedding, they've been whittling down now where we're not seeing many marriages coming up from this thing anymore. I think some people are wondering, like, hey, like, we had this thing jumped the shark at this point. I think they're just casting the wrong people. I have some simple rules that I would put in that I think will be easy. I would say you can't have a social media following. There are millions of people out here who don't have social media. I don't think it's that hard. I know that's how they find people, but I would just think that would whittle the people who are trying to get famous on social media. You can't have social media following. I would say that you have to have some openness to dating outside your race and also dating within your race. That has been a big problem where you have some people who say, I only want to date people in my race. Also people, which isn't a problem per se, but becomes problematic if they end up falling in love with somebody who's outside their race, right? And then you have people who say, I only want to date people outside my race, which I think is very problematic, which is very concerning. I would say those people cannot be on the show. You have to be open-minded about who you want to see, because we can have people going through this whole process and then you open up the blinds and you realize, oh, right, I'm dating an Asian man. And then, like, I actually don't like this person. Or I usually don't date within my race and I'm dating within my race now, but I don't really like it. Like, that can't happen anymore. So I have some simple rules. I think that would help. I think I'd be a great person to do this. That would be one of my, I always say one of my dream jobs is to, like, be like the, like, shadow GM or the actual GM of, like, a sports station. Like, if I could have one job besides the job I do, it would probably be running ESPN. I just love, like, sitting around, and me and Kendall do this all the time. Like, all right, let's try, like, create, like, what would be a good new NBA show? And, like, who would you hire? Like, who on ESPN's roster would you put together? And, like, maybe who's a free agent? Like, I love doing this stuff. I don't know why. And don't tell my former boss, Spike Eskin, who used to do this for a long time. He's probably like, you should try this maybe. I don't know. Shout out to Spike. He obviously, Keith mentioned how instrumental he was to his career, instrumental to my career as well. So major shout out to Spike Eskin. But that's one of the jobs I would do, I would love to do, is be the guy behind the scenes, actually piecing together a radio station lineup or a TV station group or creating a television show. That's probably where the producer side of EJ comes up. And the other job would probably be this. I'll be honest, this would be a lot of fun. I would love to be a casting director for Love is Blind. And I think I would do a damn good job. So that's happening tonight. I don't know if it's out yet. I usually drop at night, so I don't think it's out yet. If it is out, then I'll probably be spending my afternoon watching this, and I'll try to see if Andre can take some time away from work to watch this. But that's going to be our day for today or tomorrow or for the foreseeable future. So I'm excited about that. Love is Blind coming out today. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you watch Love is Blind, I would suggest watching it again this season because I will definitely bring it up on 40 Days and 40 Nights. That's going to leave it, man. That's where we're going to leave it. That's where we're going to do it for today. I want to thank you guys so much. I want to thank Keith McPherson for dropping by, talk some Yankees, talk about his life and his career. Awesome stuff. I want to thank you for watching 40 Days and 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart, streaming live on YouTube, on X, and on Instagram. Follow me on X, EJ_Stewart, on Instagram, ActionEJ, and subscribe to my new YouTube channel, New Generation Media. We'll be back at 6 p.m. with Night 23. Let's see what we get into. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.